Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 146, which are two films. The first one is going to be Logan from 2017, and that is directed by James Mangold. Of course, it's Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. It's a superhero film. You would think Martini Giant doesn't really do superhero films. It's a very different superhero film, which we want to get into. And in fact, we look at what James Mangold is trying to say with this film. It's actually a Western. And that's what we're doing. This theme is Western, not Western, right? So much is it a reference to Western that they literally talk about the movie Shane in the movie of Logan. So that's what we decided to cover. We covered Shane from 1953, and that is directed by Geoge Stevens, starring Alan Ladd and Jean Arthur and Jack Palance. This is a classic Western from 1953. We really get into that movie and what that theme is, and sort of cover all of these things put together. So it's really great episode. Super happy that we did it. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Some of you may be new to this podcast or to this YouTube channel. If you'd like to find out more about it or join our Discord, we'd love to have you on our Discord. Discord is in the link in the YouTube, in the comment section, so please or in the description, so please and link that. If you'd like to support us, there's a Patreon link down there as well. We'd love to do that. If you're not following us on YouTube, our YouTube is youtube.com/@MartiniGiant, and we love you to follow us there. We sometimes actually do our live episodes where we actually do our recordings of these episodes, like this one happened to be on our YouTube. So make sure and like and subscribe to our YouTube. We would love to have you there. We've got a lot of things going on. Super excited about the short that we did. We actually have ambitions to do a lot more. We actually are going to do a lot more, just so you guys know. All right, but for now, please enjoy an episode number 146, which is Shane and Logan.
Every single cliche of a Western comes from Shane.
Oh, Shane is 100% core Western experience for people that have, before you start watching Western, you should watch Shane, just as that's the
Yes.
crust for the pie, and then you layer in everything else.
Yeah.
But it's all the primary concepts of a Western laid out. Yeah, it's the bare bones with the broadest possible strokes.
Yes, I was kind of shocked by it, in terms of how much, if you put Shane in that exact same suit but make him black, and you've got Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, basically, right. Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like this is the first Western ever made. There's 100 Westerns made before Shane. It's just that Shane is the first to really boil it down so perfectly conceptually that it's iconic. There's
Right.
many Westerns leading back to literally 1907 with Grand Train Robbery.
Right.
But this is just sort of refining and refining and refining. There's other stuff from the 40s that it's great Westerns that are far more morally and emotionally complex than Shane is. But when you think of a Western, you are thinking of Shane. Even if you haven't seen Shane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like the soup starter.
The superstar. It's the mirepoix.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You need these key ingredients to make a Western. It's all in Shane.
This is it. And it clearly, because it's 1953, so you have an entire generation of filmmakers that are very young when they see it, and it burns into their heads so brightly that you see this Western echoed a million times in movies of all kinds. This is big for Scorsese. This is big for Spielberg. This is big
Right.
This is a major, major, major touchstone film. And
Sure.
I'll say also, it's a really good movie. It's a great Western.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm not denying its goodness.
Yeah.
But I think the point we should outline why we decided we wanted to do this. The reason is, obviously we've been thinking about Westerns a lot, considering we just made one.
Yep. And if nobody's seen the trailer for what we are going to shortly be releasing, it's up and available now. It's very fun.
Yes.
Yes.
And by the time this comes out as a podcast, the movie will
that's right. The real thing will be out.
The real thing will be out.
That's exciting.
So that's for sure. But yeah. So it's a very, very so we were interested in Westerns. And so one of the things that you guys kept we were talking about Westerns that aren't Westerns.
Mm-hmm.
Are not technically a Western, I guess.
Yeah, the things that are heavily influenced by Westerns,
as a
and that essentially have the structure
without
and the morals.
Specifically be taking place in the Old West.
Yeah, because we're not even talking about, because there are Westerns that are modern Westerns, like No Country for Old Men is a modern Western,
sure,
modern Western, right? And there are movies that were like Hell or High Water as a modern Western, but those are still Westerns, like that's that. But there are movies that have absolutely nothing Western in them in terms of their context, but they map quite literally to a Western, to the point where you can identify, like you can say, like, this is from this, and this is from this, and this is from this.
Right.
One of those movies we've already covered called Outland.
Outland, yes, which
Outland
is essentially a frontier town in space.
Yeah, and it's a mirror of High Noon,
yes.
Which is one of the Gary Cooper's High Noon, one of the great Westerns. Another iconic Western, like where it's just like absolutely vivid core moral decision making, and a very spare plot line. Another one is, go ahead.
Another one is a cop movie called Copland.
Copland, directed by James Mangold,
who directed Logan.
Another Western, not a Western.
Right. Copland is High Noon as well.
Yes. Yeah. And Copland's a great movie.
Except it takes place in New Jersey.
Exactly. Yeah, it's quite the East. But yeah, like Mangold has become of my favorite studio directors ever. Like he is a terrific guy. He's obviously a very old school filmmaker. I mean, he fits right into, because Shane is a studio movie of its period.
Sure.
It obviously had a very strong influence on Mangold and what old Westerns do. He continues to make sort of extremely well-fashioned, old-fashioned stuff. Right. He made Ford versus Ferrari. He made, he's still like this long list of 310 to Yuma, one of my favorite Westerns in the past 20 years.
Right.
But he also made the, like, I'm gonna be careful about saying this word, underrated last Indiana Jones movie, which I won't say is a great film, but
not the Crystal Skull one.
Not the Crystal Skull one. It is a great episode. It's like a really great episode of Young Indiana Jones. And and
he directed that one.
He directed that one. And it's like
it was like a $400 million film or something. Insanely
embarrassingly expensive. I don't blame Mangold for that. Like,
no,
I don't think
but
that's
when you deal with that big a budget, the director really is not in charge unless you're Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. Like that guy. I mean, because I feel bad for him in that, like, I'm sure he loves Indiana Jones as much as anybody. That's talk about a classic style of filmmaking. Raiders of the Lost Ark is like as iconic as Shane, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he jumped at the chance to do that. However, tackling that IP is like trying to swallow a porcupine. Like, there's just no way.
Swallow a porcupine.
like it feels bad going down, but it feels worse coming back up.
I just think of the challenges. Speaking to Tim Miller of the challenges of dealing with Terminator. He's like, oh, you're gonna make a Terminator? Like, who? Like his? And he almost admitted himself. It was like, I was naive. I was like, who wouldn't want to make a Terminator film?
Of course.
And you don't understand what you're asking for when you do that.
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, because it's a perfect example. Because I actually I love Terminator 2. I think that's a great movie. But
Terminator 2 is good.
Yeah, Terminator 1 is my favorite indie film ever made.
As an independent film, absolutely correct. Terminator 2 is completely not an independent film. That
is 100% Hollywood maximalist amazingness. Like, it's incredible.
And that's the thing that Cameron can do, right?
Yes.
That is, I think, the thing that's so interesting about Cameron. I don't like him, as you guys know. I'm not a huge Cameron fan in many ways. but he can pull off big budgets better than anyone.
Yeah, he's incredible. And
He's
as
not
everyone else
afraid of
knows,
it. And
I
a
like
lot of
Cameron
people
quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, I think
But,
maybe Spielberg does a good job with big budgets, maybe a couple,
Yeah.
but Cameron is the king of.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
You
like,
give
what
me
makes
$500 million, I'll
Yeah.
make you a movie that's totally worth it.
Yeah, because what makes Cameron work is that he is like both as a filmmaker and as a planner, he is a structuralist.
Sure.
Like he is like his movies don't work because of phenomenal acting. Like his movies work because they're built correctly to be an exciting movie. Like
Right.
the structure is almost flawless in his movies all the time. Aliens is like perfect. It's a perfect movie.
Sure.
You know, and something like, you know, or like when he goes from basically when he makes Terminator 2, he does exactly the same thing that he did for Alien. Like Terminator is his Alien and Terminator 2 is his Aliens. Right. And so like Alien is, or rather Terminator 1 is has the same, like I don't know if I can map it directly to being a Western, but it has the spareness of that. And I think that is the thing that attracts a lot of these filmmakers. It's like, this gives me core technique tools to attack very specific things. And this is true for Mangold all the time. Like,
Sure.
he doesn't like very complicated movies.
Sure,
like,
sure.
He does, and neither does Cameron. Like, he's just like, here is the good person. They need to do this, but that means they have to do this, and that makes them sad. You know, it's like,
No, yeah, emotions
bam,
are very
bam,
simple.
bam.
Very
Yeah,
simple.
exactly.
We're not asking for a lot of heady stuff out of them, but
Right.
it's just, it's a good emotional exercise. Yes, I do think he's a very interesting, I don't think that Cameron's a very good executive producer.
Yeah, no, I think
When
that
he's
especially when it comes
involved in the
to-
thing, but he lets someone else direct it, it
Yeah,
always,
yeah,
no, it doesn't
he's-
go. Alita,
he's
Battle
hands off, hands
Angels,
on. You know, that's
Terror,
bad news. Yeah. And I think that's not only him. I mean, for the Terminator franchise, that thing is just like that's a sticky bomb. You know, like there's just no way to make a great Terminator movie anymore. And they're caught in this terrible loop where it's like they can't not spend $250 million on it because that's the only way that investors in a movie like that would feel confident that it's going to be of a big enough scale to make them back $1 billion.
Sure.
Right. But the moment you spend that much money on a license, those same investors are going to be like, but be very careful and make sure you repeat everything from the other films so we can definitely sell tickets.
Because we know that if you do something that's not been done, we don't know if we're going to get our money back.
Right, exactly. And that's what ruins your film. And so like it's an infinite loop, you know, and they can't seem to get out of it. Like the best thing that could happen to the Terminator is what happened for superheroes with Logan.
Right.
Like this is a movie that absolutely commands its superhero nature, right? Like
Right.
It's like, you want superheroes? Here it is. You want a good movie? Even more importantly, here that is. You
Right.
know? And
But it's also trying so hard to put a end to it. Like here's
Yeah.
how it ends.
which
and
is
they
the, which
can't.
is yeah, right. Which is like when Deadpool's like like
Yeah.
dig him up.
Yeah, they literally dig him up in the first. I mean, did you see it? Did you
I
finally
haven't
see
seen
it?
it. Yeah, no, I was just taking a guess there.
They
Looks like
literally
I'm right.
dig him up exactly where he dies in the beginning of the movie. Like, ha
Oh my
ha.
god. Yeah, boy. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope they paid him a lot of money. That's
What he said is like, why are we doing this? Because we got paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
He says it in the movie.
Okay, then that's fine. It's all right. Like, because like, there's no way to
Everyone's like,
connect.
that's great.
Yeah, isn't it fantastic? We can all sell ourselves out. Hooray!
Everyone's like, that's such a good movie.
We have
I'm
no
not
soul.
wearing any clothes. Look at the amazing clothes he's got on. I'm not wearing any clothes.
I'm
It's a
totally
cool.
naked.
I'm totally naked.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, I don't know. But these are the two movies we're covering today.
We are.
And it's
And
very
I gotta say,
exciting.
when I saw Shane again, I just rewatched it recently. Finished watching it about an hour ago. But oh my god, that's a beautiful film.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So well shot.
Gorgeous movie.
I mean, it
Gorgeous,
is. It is very studio shoot. It's not
Sure,
like
yeah.
risky.
It's
not
not
risky.
yeah, exactly. It's not like Assassination of Jesse James.
No.
Like,
It is,
like
but it is the
classical
epitome
style.
of the best of the 1950s.
Yeah,
look.
absolutely.
The
This
color
one-
is incredible.
And very, very subtly colored, which is not
Yeah.
true for most 50s
Nope.
movies. 50s, like, they really go hog wild with color because they're like able to put it everywhere now, and they're just like, what about red bouquets of roses and giant blue dance halls? And you're just like, Jesus Christ, this has a palette and it sticks to the palette,
Yep.
and it really makes it fucking amazing looking.
Yeah.
It's gorgeously done. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think that Shane is a classic, not simply because it is so iconic, but because it's actually extremely well made. Like, it's an incredibly solid bit of work from
Right.
literally everybody involved. Cast is fantastic, especially the bad guy.
It's a
And the
really
look.
good example of, by the way, also the other thing I was thinking about, like Day for Night.
Oh yeah, and I was going to bring this up. Yeah, the Day for Night is spectacular in this thing.
It's really like you couldn't get it. Like I'm watching on my OLED TV, and it's bright in this room, unfortunately, but it's hard to
dark.
see the TV. It is freaking dark.
It's really dark.
Really dark.
And they pull down all of, like, they leave the blues, but they pull down all the rest of the colors. So it really does look very nighttimey, and it looks like nighttimey in a spooky way. You know, like if you're gonna do Day for Night, like, they really thought it out, and were daring with it.
At the end, you know, when he's riding into town to go get, it's all Day for Night. It's super dark. That scene is just him going to town with the boy following him.
Yeah, and
it goes on for like 5 minutes.
Great. Oh, it's so good.
And the only thing that's got the pressure to make you feel that is the music. The music makes it so dramatic. So like that's the tension being built.
Yeah. There's actually a shot that really stunned me where it's like, this is a Day for Night shot, and it's a pan over of when he's riding towards the town, and when he gets to the town, all the lights in the houses are very bright, like as if it's nighttime. I'm like, what did they have inside those houses to expose this like this?
Right.
Like, that must have been like, you know,
10Ks
aimed
bomb.
right at the fucking camera just to get orange boxes out there. I was like, oh my God, that's insane. That's insane. Yeah. But yeah, an absolutely gorgeous movie. And it is, like, there's, you know, I think that modern audiences, like, there's so many tropes in this thing that they might just bounce off it immediately. But
they may not like it.
They might, because, like, well, I have a bone to pick with the internet on this. Like, to me, tropes, the idea that tropes are bad is dumb, because tropes are actually what you're there to see. It's why you were in the movie, why you're there to watch the movie.
Well, that's why they keep going back to see the same freaking Star Wars film over and over again.
Yes, right. And so, yeah, but in Star Wars, it rhymes. You know, like, no, you're just fucking ripping off your old imagery. You know, like, but tropes are the key with it, especially in Westerns. It's like I always say, it's like Westerns are like haikus. Like, there's a very strict set of rules that makes a Western a Western. And if you break those rules even slightly, it's just a period piece. Like you can go watch Rip Torn in what's it called, Heartland, right? And has all the location of a Western. It is not a Western. Time period of Western, but it is not a Western. You need horses, hats, gunfights, cowboys, blah, blah, like, all that shit has to be there before you call it a Western, right? And Shane hits all these beats, and the way at which I judge whether a trope is good or bad is the skill with which it is executed, so that trope feels fresh to me. Like, that's your actual target, is to have this realization that millions and millions of people have had before, but yet you have it again, like, because it's been reframed in a new context and brings it out again. You know, it's just like if you're redoing Hamlet, the point of putting on another edition of Hamlet, another play of Hamlet, is because you found a new way to do it. And it's harder every time. It's harder by a little tiny bit every single time, because somebody figures out a new way, and now that way is done. And someone figures out a new way, and now that way is done. You know, and with Shane, it's early enough in the game that you're going to be overly familiar with its tropes. But what I would say is just watch the skill with which they are executed. Like, it is awesomely built. Everyone's on board. Everyone's selling it at the top of their game. And it's very, very efficient at what it does. And, like, that's why it's a good film. Not because it's going to be revelatory in terms of, like, oh my God, I never expected Jack Palance to whatever it is. it's a journeyman picture, made by extremely skilled people, which also maps to James Mangold, who is a journeyman director. He's a extremely skilled studio journeyman.
Yeah. It's a very typical story. So if people haven't seen Shane, here's the basic plot of it. You're going to say, yeah, it sounds like you're just narrating the most basic Western ever. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Ask ChatGPT what a Western is.
So
and you'll
give me a plot to a Western. They will pretty much give you
right.
Shane.
Right.
It is a homesteader. And it's in Wyoming. By the way, the whole thing is shot in near Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And
and the Grand Tetons in there, and it's just incredible. It's incredible.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right?
That's like, you can't get a more beautiful area of the country than this.
It's it's a gorgeous place in the country.
Yeah.
So Jackson Hole, and they are homesteaders, and this guy rolls into town named Shane, a little loner.
That's right.
They invite him over, and he stays for a little bit, finds out that there's some cattle ranchers that are trying to drive the homesteaders out because they're claiming this land, and the homesteaders are taking up their grazing land for their cattle. Right. Pretty straightforward.
And so he's he meets this, at first scene, he meets this family of homesteaders. Right. Joe, the dad, the little boy, Little Joe. Right. And Joe's wife.
Joe's wife, who is played by what's her name, Arthur.
Jean Arthur. And so, and these are all great character actors, right? And for the time, like, the kid is a little bit too much for me, but for the time, the kid's a very good actor. Like, it's hard to get really good kid actors in the 1950s is extremely rare. This is top of the game, 1950s kid actor. Mm-hmm. But Joe, the farmer, is like, he's a sturdy guy, but he's not very daring, and he's just trying to set up, his piece of, farming in this new growing community, right? And his wife is very supportive of this, but you can see that little Joe, like, he's got a sense of adventure, and he has like toy guns.
He's bored.
He's bored out of his fucking mind, and here comes this rider, right? And this is what's the guy's name? Alan Ladd Jr. And Alan Ladd Jr. is sort of like he's like the earliest class of the James Dean look. He's a little older than Dean was when Dean died. But sort of like in between James Dean and Gary Cooper, right? And he's like a sturdy, good-natured, but obviously slightly dangerous man. Like, he's seen some shit, right? And in the first 5 minutes, like, like, there's a noise on the farm, and suddenly he's just talking with the farmer, and goes and draws his gun like he's going to shoot somebody. He was like, sorry, I get a little jumpy. You're like,
which is exactly what Gene Wilder does in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to keep naming things that make fun of this exact thing. Listen, Gene Wilder from Blazing Saddles. Woo! Watch those fingers. Woo!
Little bastard shot me in the ass. Yeah. Man, oh man.
So he's got a shady past.
Yeah.
But the boy's interested. The boy's like, he's my hero. Teach me how to shoot, Shane.
Yeah, the boy becomes totally obsessed with Shane. Like, he's just because Shane seems cool. He comes out of nowhere.
Well, Shane is the optimal sign of adventure and virility that he doesn't get from his dad.
Yeah, his dad is just doing the fucking work. Like,
his dad's making. Well, his dad is also like, do your job like his kid, right?
Yeah.
And he
just do your job, get the shit done. We have work to do.
Yep.
And he's a very, like, his dad is not like his dad is not positioned as a weak character who has to learn how to be tough. Like, he's just a different kind of tough. Like, he's like, it's really hard to live out here.
And he holds his own in a fight and all the other stuff too. Right?
Yeah, so, sure. Right.
Yeah, the dad is not weak at all.
Right.
But yeah, but the point being that basically they're being run out of town by these guys, and his other neighbors, the other homesteaders, are like, well, I'm leaving because I don't want to deal with this anymore. And it's like, well, then if you leave, they win, right?
Right.
If you leave, the terrorists win.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So that's the sort of mentality that he has about it, which is tough. So suddenly when the guys come by, to claim their land. Which, by the way, there's the exact same scene in Logan.
Oh
with
yeah,
the water.
yeah. Logan's actually like we'll get to it, but it's like Logan is a very Logan. First of all, I fucking love this movie, but like Logan is really interesting because it comes under the heading of instead of like it's not just cribbing. It's not like here's the plot from Shane, blam, right?
Right.
It instead goes, I've been thinking about Shane, and I want to make a movie about what I think about Shane. And so it's
That's what's interesting because
theme.
I was, it had been a while since I'd seen both of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same plot. It's not. It's not at all.
It is not the same plot. Like what is interesting with Logan is Shane takes place in the middle of Logan. Like there's a central sequence that is essentially what if Shane went wrong?
Right.
Like
yes.
Here's the setup for Shane. Follow it through. And what if it all fucking went to hell? And
and you saw it from a different point of view. You're not from the farmer's point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
And then suddenly,
it's
Shane
really
comes
fascinating.
in. It's what if you're Shane and you stumbled into some farmers.
Yeah,
and then you made their life hell.
And you completely fucked everything up for them. Like it's really fantastic.
And you got them all killed.
Yeah, and so like Logan is a movie that thinks heavily about what Shane means. And
yes, and it references Shane, and it shows Shane in the movie, and it's like.
Right. It has a dialogue with the movie Shane. It's not a remake of the movie Shane. And so like with Shane, you have like the bad guys, the cattlemen come in. Yes. They just ride through and trample the guys.
Here's the thing I think is important for people to realize because like you think of the bad guys as like just the typical bad guys and the way that they say like the way that they express themselves like you better get off this land or it's going to be trouble for you. But they don't. They're actually trying very hard to be amicable and reasonable the whole time, which is really cool to see that.
This is also a great movie to show that like I think people have assumptions today about you're watching a Western, it must be totally crazy right wing, simplified vision of the old West and totally pro-colonialist and all this stuff. Sure. Like the arguments that are presented by both sides in this movie are really thoughtful. And you go, oh fuck, they have a point. Yeah. Like you go, they're not fucking around. Like and it's in the same vein as like The Searchers, where you're like it's not that you like suddenly agree with their point of view, but you go like, I mean, I get it. I get why he feels this way. It's not helpful, but I definitely understand.
And he gives Big Joe, so many opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the guy does not want... He's not violent for violence.
He's not violent. It's like, no, listen, I know, look, I like you.
Right.
Why don't I buy your land and then you can work for me and it'll all be part... You can even keep your land.
Right.
I'll just buy it from you and and then just make all this happen. And it's like, I worked my ass off long before all you homesteaders come in to make this land usable. And now you guys are all coming in.
It's just fucking, exactly. Like what happened to the old
You're taking my water.
Right. My creek don't run no more.
My creek doesn't run anymore. My cattle can't get anymore. So now I got to deal with all that because you guys have just destroyed the land, which is also very sort of left wing if you think about it.
Well, exactly right. Like this is what makes it fascinating because like just like and then like the counter argument when they really get into it with the town, like they like he's just like when he argues back against the villains, right? He's like, like you guys think you were the first people here? The Indians conquered this land way before you did,
right?
And you're just like, whoa, 1950s. This is not what we would expect out of you.
Yeah.
Like this is like you think you're the tough guys that made America great. Well, you're like 15th in line.
Yeah.
Like they're like the native tribes who originally came here, they were the original people of the land and they tamed it,
sure.
And then someone else came and fucked with them, and now we're having the same fight, you and I, and you just go like, this is a bizarrely thoughtful film for that time period, because I think that we tend to think of older movies as blunt and dumb, and that is not the case here. Yes. And I think that that's an even more responsible thing to be doing when you have such a what's the word I'm looking for, like such an iconic slim plotted Western as this
Right.
is it allows for subtlety, and the subtlety is really what you're there for. It's really unexpected.
Well, I was thinking specifically about like, you know, how in so many movies bad guys just play bad guys, especially when they're introduced to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Logan, right? When that guy gets into his car and is like, I'm looking for a
I'm a
girl.
bad guy. No,
I'm
that guy's a
bad guy."
fun bad guy.
He is
Like,
a fun bad guy. I'm
super
not
fun bad guy, yeah.
necessarily denying that.
But he's not a subtle performance.
But he's
That's
like,
a caricature
yeah,
performance.
just looking for here's my car. You know,
Yeah,
like he's just such a.
He just comes in
Yeah,
wearing
clearly,
black hat.
whoever-
He's like, fuck you. Yeah.
I would imagine going to someone and talking to them like that. Like, no.
Yeah. Like, and not to bury the lead, but like in Logan, like the subtleties in that are how like that guy is like big, broad performance that's very showy, right?
Yes.
But then when the little girl shows up, he's like, oh fuck, and you can see how scared he is, and you're like,
Yeah.
you're not quite as tough as you were acting.
Well,
Like,
he does that,
characters are
which
real
is a good
interactions,
design
right?
because you don't know what she can do yet. And
Yeah.
he's the
Oh my
one who's
God.
like giving you the forewarning, like,
Yeah,
I'm
because
terrified of
he
this
rolls
little
in
girl.
like the big fucking puffed up bad guy, and you
Yeah.
expect like a big macho fight between these dudes, but it's the
Yeah.
little girl that fucking scares the shit out of him, and you're like, damn, nice setup. Yeah. But anyways, for Shane, these guys they're not nice guys. They're tough guys. They're bad guys, but they're not unreasonable bad guys.
Sure.
They're not born bad guys. There is one born bad guy.
There is
He
one
comes in
bad
later.
guy, but he just comes in as like,
That's who they're hiring.
bad guy for hire is what he is.
Yeah, I'm a
right?
professional bad guy.
Professional bad guy.
Yeah,
dressed
exactly.
like a professional bad guy.
Yeah.
And cast because I looked like a professional bad guy.
Yeah, it's really something. But yeah, so like they come in, they fuck with him, you know,
Yeah.
and he's just like, you know, he's exasperated, and Shane's like, what's going on with these guys?
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, and he kind of explains the whole thing. And so he's like, okay. So he goes to town. Now the town is very small. It's pretty much the town is pretty much just a general store and a saloon connected to each other, owned by one guy.
Yep.
And there is no marshal or anyone legal. They said it's 3 days ride before you can get to a sheriff, right?
Yeah, they're way the hell out there.
So they're way the hell out there. And that means that basically, you know, it's a lawless area, even though everyone tries to obey the law. But it's pretty much just the settlers, the cattle ranchers, and the general store. That's it. But he goes to the general store, Shane does, and he buys himself some clothes because he's going to help farm with the guy. What's the guy's name? Shatter? No, what's his name?
Oh, yeah. Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look it up. Yeah, the nice guy farmer. Let's say.
Yeah. But he buys himself some clothes, and he decides he's going to buy a soda pop for the kid, right? So he's like, "Do you have any soda pop?" I was like, "At the bar." So he goes to the bar, and of course, when you go to the bar, it's just like the typical scene of guy comes in the bar, everyone's like, eh.
Yeah,
you know,
like it's because the bar is attached to the general store, right?
Yes,
and the guy.
The only thing that would make it more cliche is if someone was at a piano and he stopped playing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like the general store is run by the guy who basically runs the town is old man whatever Greeley or whatever the guy's name is, and he's a nice guy, right?
Sure.
General.
I mean, he's as close to the referee of the whole situation.
Like he's a neutral party wants to know.
Might as well be the mayor of the town.
Right, he's the mayor. But like you go through a door in the general store and you end up in the bar. The bar is run by a different guy, right? And that guy.
No, it's the same guy. He owns both.
Well, he owns both, but the bartender guy.
Yes, the bartender.
Right, the bartender guy. He's basically the guy who's running the bunch of cowboy clowns that.
He's there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so and so he let's see. Yeah, Riker.
Riker are the bad guys. So Riker's the bad guy.
Riker's the bad guy.
And then the other guys, and the good guy is, what's his name?
And so there's Joe Starrett.
Starrett, that's what it is.
And Rufus Riker. I love that. That's
Rufus
like a Star
Riker.
Trek name. And Riker, basically, he is the bartender. He runs. He has like one of his guys is his brother, and they are just like a bunch of fucking lazy sleazebags. Like that's like they don't want violence because it's too much work. They just don't want these goddamn free grazers, right? Sodbusters.
What do they call what do they call them?
Sodbusters. Yeah.
Sodbusters. Right.
Yeah. Anyone who's read or watched Lonesome Dove knows about Sodbusters.
Right. And so they one of the guys makes fun of Shane because he orders a soda pop at a saloon.
Right.
Then he's like, buys him a drink, but then throws it on his brand new clothes that he is wearing.
He just bought, right?
He just bought. Like, now you smell like a man. And just being an asshole in general.
Right. And this guy is Martini Giant favorite character actor, Ben Johnson.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's the guy from Last Picture Show who tells who's the nice old guy. Wow. And he's a great actor in this too. He's great from an early age.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson is fucking great. Love this dude. So Ben Johnson is sort of tough number one, but he's not the primary bad guy.
Right. No, he's not. So things heat up a little bit. Things get bad. Like they're putting more pressure on. They know that Shane is in town. They feel like, oh, they hired some muscle now, so we're gonna go and hire some muscle because Shane. Oh, right. That's right. Shane goes back to the saloon with everyone in town, like all the homesteaders.
Yeah, because they were all like, we should go into the
we should go in there and show them that we're here.
Right. We're a group, and you can't just mess with us, and we'll be safe that way.
So they all go in with their wives and their kids and everyone, and then Shane goes in to get his soda pop, like get
return on the bottle.
Return on the bottle, right? And the kid says, "Oh, do I get it?" He's like, "Go to the bartender and get your return on the bottle." And Shane says, "I'll do it." Goes in there, basically picks a fight with the same guy because the guy comes up, throws whiskey on him, and then starts this huge brawl.
Yeah. Like a gigantic, long, super bar fight. Like it's
super
just
bar
insane.
fight, black glass breaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good fight. It's a
pretty good fight.
What I love about Shane is it's a really violent movie. It is for its time, it's like kind of a notably violent movie.
Their fighting style is like,
it's goofy. It's old school, but there's a grimness
definitely old school.
To it. You know, like when he first fights Ben Johnson, like he breaks Ben Johnson's nose and there's like blood wiped across his face. And like the fighting is like, it's stunty and it's old school, but like these guys really look like they're taking taking big dives.
It's a lesson on how to make breakaway chairs and sugar glass and all that other stuff. Like there's so much.
I can imagine the audience being like, "Wow, this is a very, very violent film."
Right. But the other thing is Big Joe, joins him in the fight, and the two of them beat up everyone.
Yeah, and they're up against like 7 guys.
Right.
And they still hold their own. Like they
still hold their own.
Right.
And then the guy says, all right, and the owner just was like, get out of here. Everyone stop. You won. Tells them. So it's like, he made the call who won the fight. Right.
The ref.
The ref. Right. They get pissed. So this is what tells them, like, get on a good horse, go to Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And
get me a bad guy.
Get me a gun for hire.
A rootin' tootin' bad guy.
That's right. Rootin' tootin' bad guy who ends up being Jack Palance. Right?
Yes, or as Jason says, the man who shot Liberty Palance. So, like, we have Jack Palance. Jack Palance in this movie is I don't know. There are other better Jack Palance roles, but for a debut role, it's hard to be.
Is this his first role? It's early, right?
This is pretty early. I'm going to look it up. Hang on. Let's see.
Because like the best, the one which is most like the most Jack Palance ever is City Slickers.
City Slickers, exactly. And there's lots of great Jack Palance movies for sure, But like you get, hang on, I'm gonna go all the way to Jack Palance was in a billion movies. But way back when. Okay, so where's Shane? Okay, so Shane is about 10th in his career. He is mostly doing TV. Yeah, he's pretty much all TV up until Shane.
Like Bonanza, right?
Yeah, he's doing he's like Curtain Call, Studio, Studio One, Lights Out, Panic in the Streets, stuff like this. And so like these are the kinds of stuff, like he's playing second banana roles, doing TV and playing some thugs in movies. But this is his breakout as like, I'm a dangerous guy and I will play this character for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And he's fucking great. Like he's so sinister, and he enjoys it so much in this. He barely has to say anything in this movie.
I mean, he literally is the most. Everyone has some depth to their character. He is the most one-dimensional character
An
out there.
absolute cardboard cutout in the best possible way.
Black hat, the whole 9 yards.
Skinny black hat, leering at you constantly. Like, while everybody else is
putting on the black gloves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Puts on the black glove. Just one black glove to shoot with. Like that's what he does, right? Like all the corn pone stuff you could possibly want. And it's because he's so quiet and so still that he is very scary. Everybody else is talking. Even Shane's talking.
Yeah.
But this guy's
he's like sitting there, like everyone else is at the bar, like, argh, and he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Sipping on a cup of tea.
There's this fucking awesome scene when the old rebel guy who's on the good guys team, who's just like comes in and starts like going, "You ain't scaring me out of here, blah blah blah. I fought in the Civil War, and I'm gonna fight for my rights here, and all this stuff." And he's talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and it's just cutting to Jack Palance just sitting there and looking at him, and you're like, "This dude's dead." Like he is dead. No, Palance hasn't moved an inch. And it makes you horrified for the guy. It's absolutely awesome. It's absolutely awesome, this performance. And like his big thing when he's about to shoot somebody, is just like they trade insults or whatever it is, and he's just like, "I'm gonna take you down," someone says, and he just goes, "Prove it." And waits, and you're just like, oh my god, it's like put your hand in the bear trap. Like it's insane. And so I love Palance in this. I think this is one of the great early bad guy roles. He's really, really terrific.
Oh yeah, but it is the most tropey bad guy.
Oh yeah, he might as well be Darth Vader. It's just ridiculous. Dun dun dun.
Well, Darth Vader had like more depth. Darth Vader was his father. Right? No, this guy's just literally gun comes in.
Yeah, he doesn't even move unless it's a fucking bad guy stereotype. He's just like, well, am I dueling or am I saying my badass line? Those are the only two things I do. Other than that, I just sit and smile at you. Yeah, but it's a great example of just like that. All the fact that it's a trope doesn't mean that it's bad. It's super juicy to watch this guy own this role, And it's just like some of my favorite work that Daniel Day-Lewis does in There Will Be Blood. Like he's awesome at all the screaming. Like absolutely terrific, but it's when he's sitting there and seething that you're like, oh, this dude's a fucking freak show. Like that's the kind of acting that Palance delivers in this thing. He's just, he knows how to be quiet.
Face for it.
Oh yeah. He's sculpted by the props department to look right. It's really fucking.
But it's body language, his stance, how slow he moves, everything. It's very scary. Very scary.
That is like of the most archetypical things in an archetypical movie. Jack Palance, home run.
Yeah, and that's a good example.
Like the Babe Ruth of bad guys. He just walks out, points in the stands, and knows he's going to kill somebody.
And what's cool about it is that yes, you've seen someone play that Jack Palance or that role in parodies a lot.
Yeah, Jack Palance has parodied this a million times himself.
Yes, but seeing it done for real in a more serious way is
oh shit. That's
more it's fun, it's interesting, right? And it's scary.
It's so good. And and they also really know how, like you brought it, like he's dressed right, he has a great look, but they also really know, and this is true for the whole film, they really know how to shoot him. Right? Like they know how to like there's such great subtle photography in this movie. The camera doesn't move very much. But every now and again, it'll just ride forward at like 4 feet, right? And that's what like freaks you out. Like it'll be like people come into the room and blah 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 blah, and there's Jack Palance, and it goes like this, and suddenly you're like, and like they control that tone so well. Right. It's a sort of a perfect mix of like this is the kind of stuff, and as Palance comes from TV, this doesn't surprise me at all. Like. That this is the stuff they learned from shooting TV studio stuff, because shooting outside was actually still fairly difficult, right? Like you didn't plan for tons of big camera movement outside, but when you're shooting lots of,
it was mostly a sound problem though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, but it's something. Cameras are just huge, and you can do crane shots and stuff like that, but they're expensive. It's expensive and hard to plan and all that kind of stuff. And so you don't see tons and tons of like moment emphasis moves and stuff like that. That comes from the fact that when you're shooting TV, you're sliding around on a studio floor, right? And people just get like that language crops up in the 50s for these little tiny roll-ins and push-ins and all that stuff. Spielberg uses it all the time now, right? That became his moniker. But this is where you really start seeing that creep in. And Shane does there's a shot from the roof of a building which pans over and then rides forward over the balcony at the top of the Widows Walk when the cowboys are coming in. I'm just like, that's just fucking gorgeous, and it's so small.
Yeah.
And they handle all that stuff so subtly and so well. When most camera movement in the 1950s is like, make sure you cram as many colors in there and pan left and right. Like, that's what we're going to be doing. And this is a much more elegant, simpler but more elegant movie.
Well, it did get an Oscar for cinematography. It was nominated for 5 Oscars, this film, and it won for cinematography.
Yeah, that is no surprise. No surprise.
Gorgeous, gorgeous film.
So giant fist fight happens.
Giant fist fight happens. They hired a bad guy to get there. Then everyone's on edge because of Jack Palance being in town. One particular guy, what's the guy? He's been in a million things too. The guy who gets shot.
Oh yeah, this dude is actually one of my favorites on Star Trek.
Yes,
he shows up on Star Trek a couple of times as different people. Let's see if I can find the actor's name. He's really terrific. Yeah, and you'll know him when you see him. Oh yeah, Elisha Cook Jr. And he has a very particular face. Like, you're like, oh, that character actor, right? And you will know him in, if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll know him as Rejek, the ghost of Jack the Ripper in the Seance episode with Scotty. He is also he's in one other episode I can't remember, but he actually gets more business doing TV stuff in the 60s. So you also might know him from like whatever I Dream of Jeannie or whatever else.
He did Rawhide, and
loads of that stuff. Perry Mason,
yeah.
And he is also, if I'm not, is he also
he was
12 Angry Men?
I don't know. He was in Rosemary's Baby.
He's Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, he's great in Rosemary's Baby. That's right. Yeah, I love this dude. He's a great character actor. He only plays like 3 basic roles, but he nails them all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the guy who is the he's the old, not even old. He's like the middle-aged Southerner Reb, who everyone makes fun of for being a Southerner, right? And so like they keep on like, every time they're like, everyone's playing cards and hanging out, and like he walks in, like they start playing Dixie, and he's like, "Shut the fuck up,"
Yeah.
And but that's his backstory, and it's also why he fights with Jack Palance.
Well, he also decides that he's going to. I'm going to be tough. I don't need to worry about. I'm going to stand my ground against these assholes, right?
Right.
So he goes to town and he gets drunk at the bar just to show that he can be tough. Yes. And it's not going well for him.
It does, yeah. Like he makes an ass of himself.
He makes an ass of himself. But then he's like, decides he's going to go back to town, and Jack Palance was like, "Oh, look who's here." He's like, "Oh, the Dixie guy is here, right?
Right.
The Southerner." Right. So he's like, "I can get this guy to draw his gun easily." It's basically what Jack Palance does, because the rules of the West, as you guys all know, is you can shoot someone as long as you're defending yourself. So all you have to do is get someone to draw their gun, and then if you shoot them, you're in your right because they drew their gun. You're defending yourself. Right.
And so it's all about luring the other person.
So he just sits there and makes fun of him being a Southerner and taunts him. And he does draw his gun. They both draw their guns. Mm-hmm. No one shoots, but he's about to put his gun away, and then Jack Palance shoots him.
Just fucking bam, blows him into the street. Like it's a great shot, because it's one of those things where like it's kind of like it puts the beat one beat off, because you're like, oh, okay, bang, and you get a
like,
jump.
Oh no,
yeah, and like the dude just goes flying back into the mud and dies in a single shot, and it's really, really great.
Yeah, the violence in the gun shooting is actually pretty strong. It's not like No,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, it's like fuck, dude. That was yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's not quite like the 1960s turn. It's not like
When they
Wild
go,
Bunch yet, but it's like it's
you know.
definitely edging closer. And and Palance in that scene is terrific. It's good and scary. And so now blood's been drawn, and
Blood's been drawn. Now everyone's like, nope, we're pulling up stakes. We're gone. We're out of here. At which point,
one family starts to pull up stakes, and they pull up stakes. Like, we're leaving. And they start to leave, and Shane's like, no, you can't leave. You have to stay in here. Blah blah blah. And meanwhile, the fucking cowboys come in and burn that dude's house to the ground while he's
he's like he just left.
He just left, right? And so that because of the house burning to the ground, that's when Shane gives a speech and everyone sort of sticks together. Joe
we'll work together on this,
right?
But we should also know that like the relationship, the boy is an important part of this, because the boy is just constantly admiring whatever Shane does.
Yeah, no matter what. Shane,
no matter what,
drink a cup of coffee like a cowboy. Yeah, it's just whatever.
I'll just do whatever Shane does. Right.
So the boy is missing some aspect that he is not getting from his dad. Some adventurous thing that he wants, that he craves from his dad, but his dad is too much like
his dad gives him a gun, but doesn't give him any bullets. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like, I wouldn't give a child that age bullets. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like he's like the dude's trying to be. He's just like, this is, this isn't the old West where people are just fucking like, this isn't the way it is. Like, we're farmers now. This is how the country's going to grow. It's a stabilizing world. This is it. So you have to what it means to be like a father figure is to set sturdy rules to get the work done and build your community. Like, that's it for Joe, and it's good. Like that, he's right, and it's represented as good, but it's also represented as no fucking fun.
Right.
And the boy is like, oh, I kind of want some gunfighting, And Shane represents that. And Shane is the sort of bridge between the old and the new, a la the Searchers, right?
Right.
And it's also really interesting in the wife character, because the wife character obviously has the hots for Shane. Like, she's like, I wish my husband were as dashing and handsome and romantically, adventurous as Shane. But realistically, when push comes to shove, no fucking way. Right. There's a reason why I married Joe. Yeah, it's not stable. Right. Right. So the movie has
it's the boy, right? The boy says, I love Shane. Do you love Shane, Mom?
Yeah.
Yes, I love Shane.
Yes, I love Shane. We all love Shane.
We all love Shane. We all want to make love to Shane.
Yes, exactly. Everyone wants Shane. Like, let's be real. But that is not a realistic aspiration.
No. Right.
If we all just fuck Shane, it's going to be mayhem. And and so I think that she does a really great job of like carrying that, because like, she doesn't want to admit that she agrees with her son. Like, I wish that this were a more adventuresome time.
Sure.
Like I'm going into middle age and I can feel
yeah, but it's also like away. They clearly, like, people die.
Yeah. 100%. They don't fuck around.
Right.
Like the bad guys are doing bad things. Right. And like, once she sees that, she's like, no. Like, absolutely no. Like, you are not going to confront these guys. We are, like, we can just go on the run. It doesn't make any difference. But we're not going to be trading our son's life.
You love this land just as much as I do. It's like, up to a point.
Up to a point. I'm not going to see my son get killed. Are you fucking crazy?
Right.
Right. And so, like, what's really interesting is like,
but even Big Joe knows that she's totally in love with Shane, because when they have their little dance and he's looking at her and Shane dancing, he's like,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, because he's like, I also want to fuck Shane, so let's be real. Like, I can't fault her for this.
Well,
like it's Outlet Junior, for Christ's
action.
Sake.
No,
yeah,
but
exactly. Let's form a Western polycule.
but I think it's also the fact that he sees what she's looking at and wants to do that. Right.
Yeah,
so he's like, I want to show her that I can be just as brave as Shane and go in there and reclaim what's mine.
Right.
And I don't care about Jack Palance. And I've already showed that I could do it, because I got into that bar fight and I held my own.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And he feels pretty tough for doing it.
But this was before Jack Palance showed up.
No.
And they're like, you don't know how to deal with Williams is his name, I guess.
Yeah.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah. So you don't know how to deal with that guy.
Yeah, that's
And
a whole
so-
different level. You're
Whole
not
different
ready to
level.
go.
You're going to get killed. He's like, don't get killed. Don't get killed. She's really
Yeah. Yeah.
nope, I'm going to go into town and I'm going to deal with it. So how does Shane
So-
deal with it?
This is pretty great because he's like, Joe's like, I'm going, you can't stop me. And Shane's like, I'm going to stand in the doorway and stop you. Like, I'm not going to let you do this because
Right.
like you are unprepared for this level of fucking shit. Like,
What-
you're a good fighter. I appreciate you, but I'm the guy who has to take him on. And so Joe runs at him and they get into a giant fucking fight. Like,
Right. Yeah.
And this fight scene is violent and crazy and weird.
And it's
because
weird. It's awesome because the way it's shot, right?
Yes. And the animals are going crazy.
Yes.
And like
it's shot from inside the house. So inside
Yeah.
the house is bright and they're outside and it's dark. And they're
Yeah.
fighting outside. And so you see it's mostly her point of view going from window to window,
Yeah.
trying to see what the hell is going on.
she's too afraid to go outside and
Yeah.
she has such
You
mixed emotions
hear
about
the
this.
animals going crazy.
Right.
You hear the horses jumping and you can kind of see
Yeah.
the chaos outside, but you don't actually see the fight.
And when the camera finally gets outside, like they are fucking at it. And like horses are jumping over the fence and like cows are climbing over the fence and breaking the fence to get away from
Yeah.
these crazy guys. And like, and shot between this, like, it's like down low, horses in front of the camera, its hooves are stamping all over the place, trying to get the fuck out of here.
Right.
It's a really panicked, weird, great bit of filmmaking, right? It's just awesome. And
Yeah.
like, Joe is so much better than Shane expects him to be. Like, you think that Joe, like at one point, Joe basically takes Shane out and you're like, I guess Joe's going. Like, this is it. But Shane gets up and pulls him off the horse again and they keep on going. And only when Shane pulls out a gun and beats his fucking face in
Right.
does Joe stop. And so like, you're like, Joe has satisfied his, his pride and his family.
Well, that's the
defending
thing,
his
right?
own,
That's the
right?
thing that that Shane goes to as well. It's like no one can fault Joe for not going
Yeah, I beat the
because
fuck
he's
out
supposed
of
to
him.
have a.
That's why he didn't go. Yeah, I
He's
knocked
supposed
him
to have a
out.
meeting with Riker,
Right,
and he doesn't
which
go.
is obviously a fucking a trap.
It's a
but-
setup, right?
Right.
And he says,
so,
"Don't,
like,
yeah,
don't go. Like,
don't
this is a
go."
trap
And he
you're gonna
says,
make.
"No one can fault him for not going because I beat the shit out of him."
Yeah, exactly. He's unconscious. I'm going. Right. And so he beats the hell out of him, knocks the guy out, and that's when the son, who's loved Shane the whole time,
Says, "I
is
hate
like,
you."
I hate you, Shane. You beat up my dad.
Right.
And Shane's like, well, fair. reasonable judgment.
Right.
And this starts the night scene that we were talking about before, where he starts
Right.
riding towards the house.
Well, then it's the thing, right? The mother kind of like looks and says he's going to be okay, and then the boy realizes why he beat up his dad to protect him.
Mhm.
Says,
Mhm.
"I'm sorry, Shane. I'm sorry, Shane." I mean, the
Yeah.
amount
I'm
of times.
sorry, Shane. And the mother says, like,
Shane,
he didn't hear you. And
Shane.
he just goes, bold that. I'm sorry, Shane.
Right.
And Shane is just galloping hard towards the town in the middle
Right.
of the night, pure darkness. Fantastic.
And the boy
Great
is
scene.
chasing him on foot with his dog, right? So
Right.
the boy and
Right.
the dog
Yeah.
follow him into town.
Yep.
Oh, good
Yeah,
movie.
this is a great, like, that. This basically the last 10 minutes of this movie are like, whoa, it's just fucking great. It's just great,
Right.
And
But
so
the mother realizes, I'm never going to see you again. So she says goodbye to him, realizing
Yeah.
like, this
this
is
is it.
it.
this is it, right?
You're either going to kill someone or be killed,
Yep,
and then you got to leave town.
that's that. That's that. And by the way, you're super hot, Alan. I thank you for being in this movie. That's what she's saying.
Thank you so much for
Yes. And so
inspiring
Shane,
me.
Yes, exactly. And manning my husband up a little bit and adding some spice to our lives.
Yeah. I can close my eyes and think of you.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, like he goes in and he in a very, very badass scene, he just walks up to the bar and the guy, like the bartender guy, is like, I'll make a deal with you. Like, he still wants to make a deal.
No,
He's
it's
like,
Rickard, not the bartender.
Rickard, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
Rickard's like, I'll make a deal with
It's
you.
like I
I'll
have
still make a
I have
deal."
no qualms with you, Shane.
Yeah, right. No
I'm
qualms
supposed
with
to
you, this
talk
is not about-
to Joe, right?
Yeah. And it's like, nope, you got qualms with me. This is
Yeah.
what it's about. Like, and won't, like, Shane does not back down. The guy tries to get out of it as much as he can, and Palance is just looming in the background the whole time.
He just sits there drinking tea.
Yeah.
And then so Shane does exactly what he did to the other guy.
Yeah, what Palance
He starts
did
making fun of him being I've heard of you.
Yeah.
You're a Yankee.
You're a Yankee so-and-so.
Son of a gun, blah, 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 blah. And so this gets Palance worked up, which he normally keeps his cool the whole time, right?
Right.
But he ends up shooting him. Classic gunfight. Gunfight. At which point the other guy, the Ricker, tries to shoot him too, but he shoots him as well. So boom, boom, boom. He shoots. It's a very good, like 4-second gunshot.
It's a classic gunfight. It's absolutely. Classic. It's still good. It's still good today.
Still good.
And it's like the tension build is great.
Of course,
there's one
One guy, the Ricker's brother, is still on the top.
Yeah.
And he tries to shoot him. At which point the boy, who's been spying the whole time from underneath the saloon, goes, Shane, watch out!
And Shane turns just in time, or does he? Bow. And you see Shane's been hit.
Shane's been hit. You can tell.
Shane's been hit, and he kills the other dude. And then Shane's like, I'm totally fine. I'm just going to get out of my horse. And he gets up on his horse, and the boy's like, Shane, I love you. Please don't go. And he's like, no, I really got to go. I'm sorry, because I'm probably going to die in about 8 minutes.
Like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like, I'm on my way. I don't know if you can see the credits coming, Billy, but this is the way it's going to go. Little Joe. And so he has this last little speech to Little Joe, which shows up in Logan. So this is an important speech.
Twice.
Yes.
So we've heard this. If you've watched Logan and Shane, you've heard that speech 3 times.
3 times, right. And so like this is it's a transition from the movie really recognizes, and this is where it's also extremely progressive. It's like the movie recognizes that this is a time of change, and that the change is represented by there will be no more guns in the valley. Because that's what Joe's wife was saying. I just wish there was
no guns in the valley,
including yours. No more guns in the valley.
Right.
And so like this is what pins it really as a post-war film, right? Because like this movie is written from the point of view of like, fuck, just 8 years ago, like I was in Germany shooting bad guys. Like it was more than the Wild West. It was crazy, right? And now I've come home to domesticity, and it's time to farm and build the landscape again, right? But that is no goddamn fun, right? And this is where Shane as a movie, his heart, the movie's heart lies. It's like,
so you're talking about the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, it's like the Valley of America. It's like America was just at war, and it was a terrifying war. There was a war in the right against a terrible villainy. But our time is shifting now. Like we are going from the terrible, cruel, ultra-violent times, even where there's heroes of violence, into 50s America, which is let's settle down and build lives. Right. And so like that is really what the final speech of this movie means, I think. And that's why it spoke to so many people. It's like, fuck, I am middle-aged. I used to be a killer, and now I'm a husband. And it's a traumatic thing to try to readapt to. And that's why that also becomes very important to Logan. That core transition of worlds speech is very, very, very rich.
It's something that specifically Shane says. It's like, I can't change my brand.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be this person.
Once you're a killer, like once you've killed, it's a brand and it's never going away.
Right.
And so like, I can't stay here. I like the idea of killing can't stay in the valley, like symbolically, it's like Shane is like a weird version of Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. Like he kind of becomes a ghost. Like he arrives kind of like a ghost and he leaves kind of like a ghost. He's the presence of violence, even when it's good, has to go away ultimately. Like it can't last like this. It's too unstable. Even in the good side, it's unstable because you can see it's like ultimately dividing the family just to have Shane around because he's too fucking hot, and that's going to be a problem. It's just how it is. And so like Shane
He
has
wears
to
his
go.
pants super high.
Yeah, it's like whoa, baby. And so like this is the like there's a I think that this movie like I think it did well with audiences, did well with the Academy Awards because it really 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 speaks to the transition this generation was going through at that time.
It's very, very American. I mean, this
Yeah.
film is just the most American film
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, and not in a MAGA way, like
No,
I
no.
like in a good hearted way, in a progressive way, and
Yeah.
and I really feel like there's because I if there's one thing I fucking hate Donald Trump for, and it's not just Trump, but he's the one who sealed the deal on this, is like taking the idea of America and keeping it as this is what assholes like is like this pisses me off. Like America, like as a whole concept, and you just ran away with it, and it's supposed to be that's the flag for jerks. Fuck you. Like people should go watch Shane and say like that's a powerful story about a progressive vision of America in which violence and gun violence are diminished. There you go. How about that?
They
That's
don't get it though. Unfortunately, people don't understand that because there is subtlety to everything. And we talked about Fight Club itself. The message that everyone got away from Fight Club is, wouldn't it be cool to make a Fight Club? Which is the opposite of what it's supposed to be. Right?
Yeah, I know.
And so because it's too complicated, right? That's why they make movies as dumb as they do, because they're like, why bother with the complex double message? It's just going to get us canceled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like as I always say, like you can't do anything about how people interpret whatever it is you do. Like that's in their hands, and there's nothing. But you can be like, and I think that Fight Club meets this mark, right? Fight Club is extremely responsible about being as clean about his message as possible. Like it's absolutely fucking vivid in Fight Club that having a Fight Club is dumb, and these guys are fucking skinhead virtual Nazis by the end, right? It's a critique of people like Ed Norton, who you may very well be when you watch the movie.
Right.
Like you are leading yourself into a delusion, is what the movie is saying quite clearly.
Right.
That being said, the reason why I like the way the movie does it is that it's very responsible about making sure that that is as clear as it literally can be. Unfortunately, people also take the story of Jesus Christ as a reason to do violence, and I assure you, he is not a violence bro. Like he was an anti-violence guy.
No.
Said,
listen,
as a fictional character,
Jesus believes that the only country that's worth it is America, that everyone else should stay out of it, and they should protect themselves with AK-47s.
That's right.
That's the message of Jesus.
That's what he said. I don't know if you've ever heard.
I've read the Bible. It says, "Thou shalt protect their homestead in Texas with AK-47s against the Mexicans."
Right. Exactly. Specifically
illegally coming through this. Through the
How
country.
did they know in the Levant about the Mexicans?
Well, there's that's what Mormonism is all about.
Ah, yes, that's right.
The Book of Mormons. It's the other book.
Looking into the hat. That's right. Good job, guys. Good job. But so
sorry if I offended everyone in that statement, but
I professionally offend people. That's what I do. But but in any case, that this is a great example of of not only a progressive Western for its time, but I think even of today in many ways. Certainly, a lot of things that people would agree with. It is not a rah pro MAGA Western. It is actually a very very thoughtful.
I would say Searchers is more pro MAGA.
Yeah, well, and it's still very confrontational about it.
It is. Like, it is.
Yeah. Like Searchers is definitely about John Wayne, racist. Like that is what the movie is about, and it doesn't back away from it at all, which is what makes it a deep movie.
Sure.
Like it's not trying to make excuses for John Wayne. It's like this guy's a fucking nightmare, kind of.
Right.
But this movie, I think, so like Searchers is a little bit more of a hard ride if you're sensitive, but it's still saying something that I think we all believe in. But
sure.
This one is just outright like, here's a great Western that'll make you feel good about everybody involved, and it's a generally positive statement, and it's a very empathic vision even of the bad guys involved. It's a really complex thing for such a simple structure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Okay. Give me some more. One more. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a refresh on my drink, but I'll be right back. So I'll give people some final thoughts on Shane, and then we're gonna move on to Logan. So go ahead.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Yeah, no, I have obviously a long time been a Western freak. I think that Westerns are um, uh, where core storytelling chops were learned by some of my very favorite directors, and so like all that stuff gets handed down through their films. And so when you go back to something like this, especially if you're into film and filmmaking, like these things
Never
are
said you weren't.
like these things are very like you can see the roots of your own formative impulses creatively, and it's really great to take the time to watch this on a good TV. Chris's OLED, for instance, turn off the lights and enjoy the craft, because it's outstanding
I
in a way that like you just don't get commonly today.
And I got to say, the thing that you have to do, which is very hard to ask of people today, is just be patient and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, enjoy the
Because
moment of the movie.
sometimes people
Right.
they see 5 minutes of this and are like, ugh.
Yeah, right.
It's trust me, it's worth it.
Well, the issue I have, right, is that the way that because all of our, like, I'm a pro social media guy. I think that the internet and social media are wonderful things, or can be wonderful things, but largely the things we use on them are designed by slot machine companies, and so they make us very impatient to get to the point, right?
Right.
And so when we think we've gotten the point, we want to turn the page instantly. And so that's why people are hypersensitive to tropes, because they think they've gotten the point and they're just like, let's move on. I got the point. Right.
Right.
And that's how you miss the fucking point. Like,
Right.
don't do that. Like, give it a moment to steep and think about it.
That's
Because,
why it takes 5 minutes for him to get to town.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
Like,
the music is helping you build the tension as that's happening.
yeah, it's lowering you into the water. Like, this is like the point of, like, the reason why we have tropes to begin with is so you can sort of condense a lot of ideas into a single image that everyone gets.
Right.
And it goes, this thing, this thing? Cool, let's move on, right? And the movie is made up of taking trope one and trope two, and seeing the subtle gradations between these things. Like, that's the actual movie. Like, that's why the tropes are there, so that you can hang these other things on top of them in a efficient way, and see the connections between them. And that's what this does extraordinarily well. And I think that especially in modern streaming stuff, when you watch a regular streaming show, they don't have anything to hang anything on. It's just a bunch of stuff. They're just like, here's more things, and more people talking, and more people talking about the talking they did, and more talking about the talking and the talking they did. And after a while, you're like, what was this guy about? Is he sleeping with somebody? What's going on with this? Like, where's this plot going? What's it saying?
Well, you and I were talking about it. Like, we're back to soap operas.
Yeah.
Like, especially streaming shows now, they're very thin on plot, and they just drag things out to make sure you watch the next episode.
Yeah, it's soapy. It's soapy, like you're saying. It's like these are like these
General
things
Hospital.
are right, because
tune in tomorrow,
right?
Except just keep watching.
Right, just keep watching. That's the law, right?
That's the law, right?
That's the law. And so, because I was talking with Kristen's daughter about this thing, and maybe people have heard me say this before. The difference between TV and film, to me, right, isn't anything to do with how you see them. Like, it's perfectly valid to see a great film on a phone if you want to. That's fine.
Sure.
Like, it's going to be like, try to see it in a theater with the best possible stereo system and a good audience. It'll be better. It'll be a way better time. But it doesn't diminish what the film is saying to watch it in some other media. That's fine. Whatever you do with it. But the way that film works is that it has a point to make, and it builds the story to make the point, and then finishes. So you feel like you have a statement, that the movie itself is a representation of that belief. Here it is. That's what it is. That's what it's for, right? But television, soap opera, as you just said, is about avoiding doing that. It's about thinking you're doing that, but actually just getting you to the next commercial, right? And so it's spinning plates until the next thing, and just like, don't worry, something's gonna happen soon. You'll see. Da 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 da. Commercial, and then it goes, something's gonna happen soon though, and it just keeps on leading you along. Then so the difference between these two things is one is like a play. Film is like a play.
Girlfriends like that.
Yeah, exactly. So a film is like a play. You go to a play to watch a play and get the whole play. You go to vaudeville to drink a shitload of beer and watch people spin plates.
Right.
Like, there's no end to vaudeville. Vaudeville places were open 24/7.
Yep.
Like, the bar is open all the time. They just want to sell more beer, right? And that's what these shows do. It is not about telling a story. It's about infinitely spinning the fucking thread out of the spindle, like, just so you keep watching. And that's why these things are ultimately, almost all TV in the end ends up being bad. There's like less than 20, I bet there's less than 20 shows that are good all the way through and end well. I think that's a reasonable guess. Like,
maybe.
almost every show you can think of is like, oh, it's great for the first 3 seasons, then it gets a little boring and the ending's done. Like, that's 90% of shows, including really great shows. Or they're canceled very early and they don't get to finish, but at least they were good for those 2 seasons.
So third season is where they have to pay more money, so that's usually where they cancel.
That's where they cut it off now. Yeah, that's right. Happens a lot. But yes, Shane is a good fucking meal, sit-down meal. Pay attention to what you're eating.
Start to finish. It follows an exact formula.
Yep. 100%.
That they created.
Yep.
That's my argument, right? Like, Shane created that formula.
Yeah, very, very, very definitely. Like, it's sort of, so like, at least it recognized these elements, and then it was just like, what if we just lock these in? Right. Like, we can get fancier, but let's not. Let's just do it right. Let's set the fucking the temperature for the room for Westerns for literally ever after that.
Sure. So that's Shane, and then Logan was the choice to follow it up now. So Logan references Shane twice.
Mm-hmm.
So just to put it in perspective, they're in a hotel room in Vegas and they're watching Shane on the TV, and Patrick Stewart, who's obviously Xavier,
Professor X,
X, is showing the girl Shane and talking about how he watched it when she was a little girl, when he was a little boy.
When he was a little boy, and now she's watching it and she's mesmerized by it.
Right? And so it's very much in that thing. So as such, many of the same things are homages to Shane.
Mm-hmm. And it really thinks about what Shane means. Like, the movie is just definitely like, okay, this is what I took away from Shane. And we're talking about the same sort of time of transition, and Logan himself is, trying to hand the baton off to the new generation in this movie. And so it identifies with what Shane's saying, but it also says we live in an even harder time now, right? And so, like, this is not as easy to be good, and it's not as easy to make stark moral decisions.
Well, let's put this in perspective in terms of the whole superhero thing, right?
Yeah,
because this is at the peak of superhero films, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is when it came, 2016 it come out? When did it come
Somewhere around it. Yeah, it's like the superheroes are flying high at them.
Right? And it's also just post Deadpool, I believe.
Oh, that's wild to think. But yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
Right? So Deadpool, and so this is when suddenly people are like, what if we made darker, grittier, R-rated superhero films?
Right.
And we just saw the comedy version of that with Deadpool. What if we made a dark version of Wolverine? Because the Wolverine story, if you think about it, is a very dark. It's one of the darkest stories out there, right?
Yeah. In fact, like, I would say that because this is this references a few comics, but it's for people who are into comics. This is very much a comic called Old Man Logan, right? Which is great, and it also hits a number of notes from the heady days of early '90s X-Men, written by Chris Claremont, where it was like really big, serious drama happening, and like, it's something they've never managed to capture in those movies at all. And this is the only version where you're like, whoa, that is like the fucking comic book in the best possible way.
Right.
Because Logan and Wolverine as a character carries so much more weight than most every other superhero. Like he is,
Sure.
he's built to be a much grittier story, and they invest in that wholeheartedly.
Yes. Couple reminders of the character of Wolverine, in case you need reminders. He technically doesn't die. He's the oldest of all of the superheroes
Yep,
because
that's right.
he's invincible and he regenerates when he's wounded. Right. He's also was captured by people, taken into a laboratory, and given extremely challenging surgery that he would never have survived if he didn't have this regenerative superpower,
Right.
which puts metal in his bones and gives him his blade things that come out. Right.
Yeah, it's adamantium, which in the Marvel universe is the strongest metal that mankind has ever seen.
Right.
And so his brain is encased in adamantium, and so you can shoot him in the face with a shotgun, and it'll blow his face off, but it won't kill him, and his face will grow back.
Right.
That's how it works with Wolverine.
Right. And so he is joined. The X was discovered by Professor Xavier, who brings him into the X-Men school and starts the whole X-Men thing, and he's part of that whole thing. But he's very close with Professor X.
Right.
In this movie, we're well past the X-Men hero days.
Yeah.
Well past it.
Yeah.
We're in the future of 2029, which is not that far from now.
Right.
And he is not in peak shape, which is unusual because he's X-Men and he's the Wolverine, and Wolverine would be fine no matter what happened to him, right?
Right.
So he's clearly not in peak shape. He's driving a limo as a job.
Yeah.
Just odd.
Like things have really fallen to hell. Wolverine can't even get any superhero work.
Right. So he's doing that. And he's in El Paso. So it's out very close to the border. It's gritty and they're assholes. He's driving assholes around in his limo. Like there's a lot of assholes that are in his limo.
Right. Yep. In fact, the very first thing that you see happen is he wakes up, he's sleeping in his limo, right?
Yeah.
And he wakes up because some gangbangers are like stripping the hubcaps off his car, and he gets out to say, like, fellas, don't do that, it's going to chip the chrome and you're not going to be able to sell them for anything. Like kind of jokey, but just get the fuck out of here. They get super violent, they raise it up really fast, and they basically just shoot him to kill him and just get him out of the way and get back to stealing the shit in the car. And then he kills them.
Yeah.
This turns out to be a mistake because he murders them all.
Yes.
And so like Logan is like, he is no longer upholding the good or doing anything like this. Like he is a fucking disaster. He's an alcoholic. You know, he is like, something's definitely wrong physically with him. Like he's not healing as fast as he used to, and like it's starting to add up, you know.
Yeah.
So and the country itself, you also see like there's just subtle signs all over the place that things have
its prime.
Yeah.
What seems to be invincible is past its prime. And they're showing that as part of the country as well. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Like he's in the car driving around some frat boys, and they're driving near the border, and the frat boys are outside the sunroof yelling USA. Yeah.
Nothing makes me more instantly irritated than this.
Yeah.
I know. And so like, yeah, it's a bad new world for superheroes. And it's interesting because you're right. Like this is like around the Deadpool time. I remember thinking between the two of those, I was like, superheroes have reached a new level if this is what they're doing. Like
yes, and they did it. So they did it for a few things, right? They did it for Deadpool. They did it for Logan. They try to do it with the Joker as well. They're trying to a couple of areas.
And the Superman, the DC entries were also pretty grim and gritty, which I don't have entirely negative feelings.
I've never seen any of those.
If you're going to watch this, so here's my sum up on Zack Snyder. I do not hate Zack Snyder. I think that Zack Snyder is occasionally good and sometimes very good and sometimes not very good. but he's all over the place. But his Superman movies, if you watch them all in a row, like which is Man of Steel, followed by Batman versus Superman, the director's cut, and the director's cut of Justice League, then it actually makes up a really good superhero story that feels very much like reading a DC comic. And so if you're into superheroes, I really recommend it. It's also very beautiful all the time, which is not something you can say about Marvel films, which look like shitty 70s TV. And so like I'm not anti DC in any of this stuff.
Right.
You do have to be very into comics to be as forgiving as you need to be about some things.
Sure.
But it's good.
But this
good. But it was feeling good. It was feeling like comics were actually.
This is also outside of that, right?
Yeah.
So this is, how do I say? This is part of the X-Men side of the Marvel.
Yes, this
universe.
is the like Marvel. Marvel has a weird. Marvel Studios has a weird relationship with X-Men because I think Sony owns the rights to X-Men because they made the movies of it first.
Sony or Fox? I don't remember.
Fox, yeah, sorry, Fox. And so like it's always been in this kind of nebulous zone because Fox is not, Fox makes some good movies but also fucks up things that should be good. And the X-Men has always floated in that weird barrier.
Right. Well, and Sony, so and then Disney bought them.
Right, and then Disney bought them. Right.
So and now so it's all kind of the same bullshit.
Disney is trying to lead back towards doing brand new X-Men, for instance. But I think they only bought Fox to get Avatar. I think that's the only reason they did that. Yeah, because it's a, and I love the Avatar movies, but that is for theme park stuff. Those are theme park guys, 100%.
That's where they make their money.
That's where their money's at. Yeah. And as we can see, like Disney's interest in Star Wars and in Marvel and in Avatar.
It's all about theme parks.
It's about theme parks. It has absolutely nothing to do with producing interesting art at all. Like it's a totally different business. I don't even mean it as a criticism. That's what they want to do. And they'll occasionally make things that are good art to keep things alive, but mainly they want to direct you towards the line and buy the $1,000 ticket to get in. Like that's what they want.
I think is interesting is they used to make good art, and then they would find opportunities for that art in the theme parks. But now they have the theme park in mind first.
Absolutely. Right.
Right.
And the thing is, I mean, sometimes they make perfectly good stuff, like things that are fine now. And so I can't say it's all bad. I'm just like, this is not nothing they make now is the kind of stuff that would have created a theme park of itself. Like, yes, like when they first made a Star Wars entrance into like Epcot, it blew my mind, right? Because I loved Star Wars. Because Star Wars was a good movie. But now, like, there's barely any Star Wars movie that I would be like, oh, I wish that was a theme park. Like, it's just a fucking IP. Right. Like, and it's just about keeping those IP plates spinning. That's their entire idea. And so when you get something like Logan, like, which is such a complete experience, it's sort of disorienting. Because you're like, whoa, that's a rich, deep story with a finish. There's no leads to another movie. There's no, I have to go watch 6 other shows on Disney Plus. There's nothing. Like, it is itself, which kind of goes to the Shane quote that they bring. It's just like, a man has to be himself. Like, there's nothing else he can be, and it's just like, that's kind of what this movie's doing. Like, you can't just fucking keep on spinning the plates. Like, you got to say something. You got to stand for something. And Logan really, really, really does. And I think that it takes itself very seriously as a movie first. And then as an interesting way to tell a story, it's a superhero movie.
Right.
Which is not the way that they make superhero movies now.
Yeah. But it is a superhero film. It's definitely
100%.
He is 100% Wolverine.
Yeah. Like, there's mutants all over the place doing crazy shit. It's really good.
Yeah. But it's dark. It's dark as hell.
Talk about, I was saying Shane was violent. This movie is crazy violent. Like, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how much fucking bloodshed there is. They killed this must have like 70 or 80 people getting killed in this movie.
There's
easily.
A lot of people getting killed in this movie.
It's insane.
What's interesting insane. Also is like Brady watched it with me and he goes, You didn't tell me it was a sad movie.
It's a sad movie. Oh,
it's a very sad movie.
It is a fucking heartbreaker. I got to the end. I was like, "Oh shit, it's happening!" Like I was like, I forgot. Yeah. I cry really hard at the end of this all the time. This. I saw this movie probably 5 or 6 times with my son in the theater. I was like, "This is the way that this kind of shit should be." I was so thrilled. Now I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, and to rewatch it again today, I was like, "This is my favorite superhero movie ever made." I think this is the gold standard for superhero films.
I think you're right, but what I also think is interesting is that there's so many things that I have problems with superhero films that this has, but I'm totally forgive it, right?
Yeah, because it's good.
Because it's good, right? So I always think about, you can't sort of rely on a movie that you need to understand the past in order for it to be working. This one you have to understand Wolverine, you have to understand what's happening.
You have to be. You have
to have some context before you go into
it. But it certainly imagines that you're at least passingly familiar with this stuff.
Right.
It'll be an easier ride to figure out what's happening if you know these things. And so in that case, it's sort of like Unforgiven. Like Unforgiven is a great film and works all by itself. It's 10 times better if you've seen Clint Eastwood movies, which are basically the prequels to Unforgiven.
Right.
And so this movie still works if you're not a superhero fan. I'm absolutely sure of it. But you're right. Like there's some deep lore in this movie that you just have to go, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Right. Well, the key is that he keeps Professor X in a hollowed out water tower that's laying on the ground in order to contain his brain,
because he's almost senile, right? He's in his
90s.
Yeah, he's in his 90s. He is having he is the massive, like he's the most powerful psychic in the world, right? And when he has basically a psychic stroke, like everyone for a mile is having the same seizure with him. Like everyone just locks up and they're in horrible pain and they can't get out of it and they're frozen in time basically.
Right.
And so like they have to keep him way the hell out in the desert and enclosed in metal and constantly doped up. And he's basically, it's like the shittiest assisted living facility of all time. And this is more or less Logan's dad. And so immediately the story that's set up is like, here's a superhero story about your dying parents.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck. Your parents are becoming, your dad is becoming senile and you're having to keep him in a special home, and like, you're just mad at him all the time because
you're married to Steve Merchant and he's a bitch.
And you're married to Stephen Merchant. Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God, this is so good. But even with that setup, if you're an X-Men fan,
I'm taking care of your dad. This is what you left for us, our marriage.
Yeah, this is it. Exactly. I'm not going to be able to go off in your fucking boat together, like all this stuff. And so like you have what's really awesome is just design wise. This is if you're an X-Men fan. Is the fallen water tower is like you have now Professor X, instead of being in this cool wheelchair, like he is bed bound and wheelchair. Like he is actually diminished. Heavily diminished, right? Patrick Stewart's amazing in this movie, and
he's so good.
And it's fucking so sad, and the environment looks like is reminiscent of in the X-Men the globe that he goes into, right? The machine that he controls, like sees every thought in the world in,
right?
And so everything is this beautifully diminished version of its original self. Logan is everything, America. And like they put so much like just absolutely savory time into thinking through the entire image and setting that you're looking at. Mm-hmm. It's amazing to see this on a rewatch. I was like, oh, this fucking rules. Like they really, really understand what they're writing and they really understand the tools with which they are writing and they're maximizing that effect. It's really fucking great. It's really great.
Yeah. So we find out, he's taking care of this guy, Steve Merchant, who's also a mutant. He calls himself a glorified truffle pig. He can sniff out other mutants, right?
Yes, right. And he's extremely light sensitive. He can't go out in the sun at all, so he has to wear lots of shit. Yeah, right.
It's just very dangerous.
His name is Caliban, which is also a major character from the X-Men comics, which I was happy to see. Slightly different from the comics, but awesome.
Yeah. So as that happens, and he's still doing his limo thing, and he's got to get pills. You sort of you're introduced to this, how broken down this character is, and how he's dealing with his dad, which is not his dad, but and all of that. But then you see, you're introduced to this woman who comes up to him and says, "Please save my daughter." It's like, I know you're the Wolverine. I know you're. It's like, get away from me, lady.
Yeah.
And he tries to get away from her.
He is. It's the classic rejection of the adventure. He's like, no fucking way.
Yes.
Like all that super heroic past. Like I'm not only not that person anymore. It wasn't like that back then.
Yeah.
Like
it was all a lie.
It was
everything you think
lie.
about superhero films. It's all bullshit, right? Exactly. Basically what he's telling you.
Yes. Because there are comic books in this film. Like there are X-Men comics in this film. Right.
And they're like, this isn't real.
And basically it's like, this is fucking dumbass promotional material.
Right.
Like none of this happened. Like 30% of this happened slightly like this, but it didn't happen like this. Right. And the rest of it's just totally made up. You know?
Right. So it's basically, that's how they changed the scope of the other X-Men films. It's not it's like, that's the comic books. This is real life.
That's the bullshit version. Right.
Yeah.
This is the real version.
Yeah.
You know?
And I also know that there haven't been any new mutants in 25 years.
That's right. Because there's been this massive government campaign to
exterminate them.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like this is where it nods to for again, anyone keeping track, this is the X-Men plot, The Days of Future Past, which they've drawn a lot of movies from this plot, but this is the best vision of this thing where it's just like, this is in the future where mutants are hunted down, and it becomes like a giant treatise on racism, and it's such a brilliant bit of writing from Chris Claremont that it was, because I was like maybe 17 or 18 when I read these things, and it made a massive, massive impact on me. And when all the X-Men movies they've made, I'm like, nope, nobody's hitting it until they made Logan, and I was like, they finally did it. Like that's what it felt like to read these books. Absolutely stunning.
Yes. And we basically are introduced to this woman who's like, try to save my daughter. Mm-hmm. And she find out that there's someone else that's trying to find her too. The bad guy, right? We mentioned this earlier before, but bad guy walked into his limo. It's like, someone visited you. What are you talking about? Like, she's looking for someone. And so she's with a girl. Here's my card. Call me if she ever gets in touch with you. And then he's like, get out of here. He's like, okay. Doesn't work. Right.
And this character name is Boyd Holbrook. And he is one of my favorite bad guy actors in the world. Like whenever he shows up, you're in for a show. He absolutely savors being a villain, and he will play that 9 to 5 every day for the rest of his life. He's absolutely terrific.
Yeah, for sure. So Logan tries to talk, gets away from the situation, but then talks to gets a message from the woman or something. I forgot what it. Oh, she offers him a bunch of money to save the girl, to take him to a place called Eden, and there's coordinates written on the envelope, right?
Right. And so, like, and this is just enough money that he could, like, because he's trying.
Because he needs money for pills.
Right. Well, and he also has this fantasy of like, I'm going to buy a boat, right?
And we're going to go to Yulapa. Yeah.
And exactly. And we're just going to live on the boat, and then he can have all the fucking psychic freakouts he wants, and he's not going to endanger anybody.
Right. We should also note that Logan is not as affected by his psychic.
Yeah,
everyone else
still
frozen.
Push his way through it. It causes him immense pain, but everyone else is like brain locked.
Right.
But Logan's still trying to protect everyone else, even in doing. It's just like, we got to get a little piece of happiness, and I can't keep on worrying about it.
We find out that he had a massive brain seizure in Westchester and it affected over 600 people and killed several.
Yeah, exactly. And
So that's why he's hiding.
Yeah, right. And so he's the most wanted mutant in the United States.
Right.
And here he is, like fucking Logan has to take care of him like he's an invalid old man, which he is.
Yeah. Yes.
So
So
this woman says, like, please
save
money.
my girl, or here's money I want you to take her to Eden. Here's $20,000, and then I'll give you another $30,000 when you get there, or whatever. One of those typical things. And he says no.
Mm-hmm.
But then, or he takes the money and then says he's going to do it or something.
Yeah, he's he's thinking about this. Like maybe we can pull this off.
Maybe we can pull this off. And then he starts to go back, and then runs into the bad guys, and then he finds out from the woman shit's gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Come here. So he goes to see her. She's dead.
She's already been killed. Right.
She's already been killed.
Kid's gone.
Right.
And he's like, oh fuck. You know?
And then he
takes the phone from the.
He takes the phone.
Right.
And then
so he can't be tracked for his messages.
And then he leaves to go back, and then when he gets back, the trunk is open in the back of the limo, and there's a backpack in there.
Right. And the girl had hopped in the trunk.
Basically, yeah. She's stowaway.
Logan was, exactly, looking at the dead, quote, mom. And and back at the place, Stephen Merchant immediately senses her, because that's what he does.
Right.
And he's like, what the fuck is going on? Who is here? Right.
Right.
And that's when Xavier comes out, and he's like, look who's here, Logan, this lovely little girl. And he's totally made a connection with this girl, right?
Right.
And it's just, like, this is a seemingly mute, cute little girl, right?
Yeah.
But Logan's like, no, I'm not fucking taking care of more people. Like, this is awful, but before he can do anything about it, Boyd Holbrook shows up, and he's like,
yeah,
where's the girl? Right.
And I feel hurt. You didn't call me first.
Right. Yeah. They get into a skirmish.
But he comes there with all these mercenary characters, right?
Right. Oh, this business is so great. So, like, yeah, to trim this all up, he shows up with his bad guys to get the girl. Right.
Right.
And Boyd Holbrook, like I said earlier, he is a braggy, big time asshole bad guy. And he's surrounded by 30 dudes in heavy armor and guns. And he rolls and he's just like, all right, bring out the girl. Let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And he's arguing with Logan and acting like the tough guy, right? And then he says to one of his guys, like, go and get her, right? Dude goes in, sees her. She's eating a bowl of cereal. And he starts walking up to her, and it cuts out wide. And
it cuts to outside, and all you hear is screaming and gunfire.
And you just suddenly hear all this heavy violence, and you see Boyd Holbrook and all of his crew are like, oh no, right? Things have gone wrong. Yeah. Girl walks out holding the dude's head under her arm, throws the head at Boyd Holbrook, and he's like, just calm down now. And suddenly all of his big talk collapses as she leaps into the air, spikes shoot from her fucking arms and feet, and she starts murdering everybody. Like, it's instantly bananas, right? And
then she says, don't shoot her, she heals, right?
Yeah, she heals, you fucking idiots. Right. So, like, everything starts going wrong. Giant action scene happens, which is a terrific action scene.
Good action scene.
Yeah, like, it turns into this, like, shitty limo car chase with all these like
the limo car chase one is the one I love, because what I love about that is that he goes, you see this very typical thing where he's like going to ram into a chain link fence, right? Yeah. And you think that, like, in most films they'll just blow right through it. If this were
a Burt Reynolds film, he'd blow right through that fence.
Right. Yeah. But he doesn't. He gets stuck. Appropriately stuck. And I'm like, that's one of those fences are there, right? And so then he backs out, and the chain link fence is like mangled on the front bumper of his car, which they then use as a weapon in the chase. And so he's driving backwards and people are jumping on it and he's swinging it around like
wiping out. Oh my God.
He's swinging around this fence as he's doing these turns and just knocking people off left and right. And it's kind of awesome.
Terrific. And the thing is, it never comes across like a gag. Like, let's do something like this. Feels like it grows naturally out of the scene.
Yeah.
And
then like, oh,
the more it happens, you're like, this is crazy. Yeah, exactly. Like this is very dangerous, and like they get away, but now it's like Logan, like Stephen Merchant's been captured. Logan is now driving with fucking this little girl who's like obviously a murder machine, like an incredibly dangerous animal who doesn't talk, and you have old man Professor X going like, "Isn't she wonderful, Logan?" And he's like, "Fuck you!" Like this is a nightmare. So like it's the perfect like suddenly like you have this weird little family unit in a road movie, and so the movie morphs into being the road movie, and I'm just like, this is just dynamite. I forgot how packed this movie is.
Yeah,
like,
it turns into now we got to get to wherever, right? We got to go to North Dakota.
Now we have a goal. We got to go do this thing. It's like it's pure. This is why I say that Mangold is like, he's studio gold, man. Like he's like, I'm gonna deliver the studio picture you paid to see. It's going to be a mind blowing action festival summer movie experience. But I will also be making a good movie. Like that is what most big filmmakers fail to do. And he's like, you paid $20 to be here. I'm going to give you $70 of action. It's amazing. Like I absolutely love this dude.
Yeah, really, really good. So they're on the road, and as they're on the road, they're on the highway, and on the highway, there's a whole bunch of trucks. But notice that because it's slightly in the future, all the trucks are
cabless.
Cabless, meaning that basically they're all self-driving trucks.
Right.
And it's kind of an interesting look and about how ridiculous that is and how dangerous it is.
And how dangerous it is. And like, and how like it's sort of symbolic of, because they're not just saying like, whatever, AI driven trucks are dangerous. Like there's something like just demoralizing about seeing this. Like you're just like, the country is just turning into a machine. Like this is just, it's like a weird.
Oh, there's definitely statements about America in this for sure.
Yeah. And it's a really, because I mean, everyone's used to driving on highways and all that stuff. And you're used to seeing people on highways, but these highways are just robot boxes hurtling at each other 200 miles.
Yeah, it's like you're stuck on a assembly line.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's no room for people to be on these highways. Like there's no, people can't drive on these things. It's too dangerous.
Right.
And so it diminishes your freedom even further.
Right.
And they just get this across with visuals. Like there's no like deep backstory that they hand out with this thing. Like it's 100% just like, here's a visual that supports the message, right? And it also just like lightly enhances the science fictionalization of the movie in a sort of like it's the Blade Runner effect. Like I don't need to know too much more than that image, and that world gets really built out in my mind.
Sure.
This whole section of the movie in particular is like, you get a very solid glimpse of what living in the middle of the country is like in the future, and it's fucking depressing.
Yeah,
it's absolutely terrific.
Yeah, can you imagine like that?
Yeah, it's bleak, and it's not like bleak like Blade Runner grim bleak. It's like it's sunlit, but you're just like.
But it is also very Western, right? So it's like what happens when the frontier land just falls into that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
automatic.
And
they have automatic combines, like giant combines that are going, which does exist, by the way. Those combines.
Absolutely.
There are robot combines that are not driverless too.
Yeah. Because in the second we're coming up, ends up talking to this character who's like talking about those combines. Yeah. He's just like, swallowing, harvesting their megacorn. Well, people eat it. Yeah, people drink it. It's corn syrup.
Right.
And all their fucking sweet.
It's like it tastes horrible. The corn tastes horrible. It's like, then why do people grow it? It's like they don't eat it. They drink it.
They drink it. Like this is simply you
sugar.
drink your fucking energy drinks so you're not depressed all the time. This is what this is for.
This is to make all your Monster and your Red Bull.
Right. And not like all these little touches add so much to this setting that you start to feel. I think that if I did not know so much about the X-Men, I would say like this is where it starts to feel like an absolutely complete world, regardless of knowing backstory.
Yeah.
Like because they're filling out all the corners with all these nice little details. And it's so.
But speaking of backstory, we did miss on one key point. So we do find out because he escaped with the girl and they sort of try to get away with all that, but they because they have the phone from the woman.
Yeah.
She takes a video showing where she's all from. So we learn about her backstory through the phone. Right. And the phone explains that they were built in a lab in Mexico that's owned by Americans, right? Which is also another thing. We just make all of our terrible stuff down there.
Exactly. It's slightly illicit. Have another country do it.
Yeah.
No problems.
Yeah. So listen, we're in a country that expects to eat strawberries in January, so we get them from Mexico.
That's right. And so and this is also a great little bit of filmmaking too, because like essentially this is a flashback tool, but they frame it via the phone, and it turns into this like essentially a little YouTube documentary that she's cut together. And so the movie switches modes. It goes from being like a classically shot Hollywood movie and then slips into being this like handheld documentary about mutants for about 15 minutes.
Right.
And it's so deft that you keep totally engaged and you get all this little drama that's happening in that.
Because I should note that the whole movie is shot anamorphic, and I almost want to say very anamorphic, because it's like everyone, but like the focus, they do a lot of focus pull changes, and the background just goes just shifts.
Wow. Yes, exactly.
It's like very funky focus pulls because of the anamorphic lenses.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really beautiful. But like it's a great mode shift, and it does all the service of being a flashback without like flashbackiness.
Yeah,
it's really nifty. I like it quite a bit.
But essentially, we find out that they've been taking these kids. They've been taking DNA from mutants
and from Wolverine,
himself in certain cases, and putting them into Mexican women, having them give birth, and then raising these kids that have never seen the light of day. Right,
as mutant weapons,
weapons, and it's specifically done by what's the guy's name who was in Saltburn.
Richard
with Nell
Grant.
And I.
Yeah,
Richard Grant.
Richard Grant is fucking great. He's always a savory bad guy, or always a good, fun, dumb guy, or he's an awesome character.
Hilarious.
He's the dad of Saltburn. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so he's basically like the father of all these children and these things, right? But then what they've discovered, if you find out that they've discovered, is that they have created a more efficient way of growing these people as opposed to raising them from children.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut down the program, and they were going to kill off all the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But
because they're too dangerous, and
they're too dangerous, and they're not controllable. But the nurses have raised these children and love them and try to help them escape. And so we found out that she's not, in fact, the mother, but one of the nurses, and get these kids.
Which is a great everything in the movie reinforces this great theme, which is Professor X is not his dad, but he's his dad. The nurse is not her mom, but she's the mom. Logan is not her father, but is her father. And there's this great sense built up of we have our responsibility to the next generation is beyond ourself. It's you can't. This isn't just talking about I got to raise my kid right. This is we have to start taking responsibility for where we are going as a country, and what we are actually choosing to do. It isn't about your kids; it's about everybody's kids,
right?
And it's
about doing the right thing.
It's about doing the right thing, because in Shane, it's a transition from a bad period to a good period. This is a transition from a bad period to a worse period. Things are going to get worse in the world, Logan. After Logan ends, it's not going to be a better world. It's going to be a worse world.
Right.
And the only reason the people that are young in that world will have any hope is because they were raised by people like Logan, like who uh who like actually takes responsibility for caring for someone in a real way, you know, even though he fights it through almost the entire film.
Right.
Like he is like, the world is terrible and I want nothing to do with anyone anymore. Fathers are bullshit. You can see my crazy X-Men father is literally crazy and very dangerous.
Let me just
I
put
don't
it this
want
way.
the
No one in this movie is wearing a superhero outfit.
zero. Zero.
Right?
Like, yeah. And so like this is a heroic movie. Like this is a
Right.
movie about actual heroism, and how difficult it is to accept the real responsibility of that, because Logan just doesn't deny it. Like it's, oh, it's he's on the hero's journey, so he turns it down and then he learns. Like the whole fucking movie he's like, no, I don't want this. That's not who I am. I can't handle it, and I want to dump this kid as soon as I possibly can. And
Right.
only by the time that he gets to that point, he realizes that he loves her. And you go, fuck.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. But yes, there's a fantastic. But what he finds out is like, it's the map coordinates, the Cartesian coordinates are written on the envelope, and then he's looking through her backpack, finds an old X-Men comic book. He's looking through it. I love, by the way, this is the funniest thing. Like he's getting old, he can't see as well.
Yeah.
And so he's got the reading glasses that he bought at the CVS that still has the price tag on it.
Yeah,
it's
so
the
good.
best.
I love it. And I love that Xavier says, oh, I like you in those. You look younger. And you're like, oh no. Oh no. Yeah.
And he's just trying to read a comic book. And it's really funny.
So
but he's reading this comic book and he sees as an episode, in the comic book is like, we're going to escape and go to Eden. And there's the map coordinates in there, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh, we got it from the comic book.
Yeah, it is.
It's bullshit. It's not a real place. It's from the comic book.
Right.
So,
and Xavier says a very powerful line. He says, like, it's because he's like, it's not real, Charles. And he goes, it is to her.
It is to her. You got to give it for her. And he tells her she's your child, obviously.
Yeah. And he's just like you may, like,
because she has all of your powers.
Yeah. Like you may not have be the direct reason she exists, but this is your daughter.
Your genes are in
this
him.
is your genes. This is what's happening. That's why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
Right? And like, of course she is, she's mute and basically she's way more of a Wolverine than Wolverine is. Like
she's
like an
wild.
Actual Wolverine. Yeah, she is wild. Like,
yeah, when she goes, well, she doesn't have any. She's never had any social skills because she's never lived outside of this lab, right?
Right.
So she's in the convenience store and she's like just grabbing whatever chips she wants,
taking what she wants and all this stuff. She has never she's never had a parent at all, like in any real way outside of the nurses, right? And now that she's free, she feels very vengeful about how people have treated her and all this stuff. And so Logan is in the position to have to be a dad to her. And neither of them want this to be true.
Right.
Like he's doing it simply for safety's sake. Like, if you act like this, we'll get caught. Right. not like, I want you to act like this so you're a better person. He's just like, you will get us killed. Stop acting like this. And it turns out that that's parenting for him.
Yeah.
It's just such a terrific setup.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, we're okay, right. So they're in this passage. They try to change cars, they do a couple things because they've gotten in all kinds of chases and stuff like that. They change cars and then they end up on the highway, which we mentioned, the automatic trucks, and they almost get into a car accident. And there's another truck with a trailer with horses. And the horses end up getting loose from the trailer and are running on the highway. They're, driverless trucks.
Yeah. Like, this is going to be a horse explosion.
It's not a good thing. Yeah. So it's very scary. What does Xavier says, like, you got to help him. I don't want to help him. We got to keep moving. It's like, you got to help him.
Help him. Yeah.
Right. You got to do the right thing.
It's something beautiful about this being about horses, because you can't have a more it's like, if there's an animal that embodies freedom, it is a horse. Right.
Yes.
And like that this is the quintessential Western animal, and is the
Right.
quintessential American animal, right? And like it represents like this absolute like mindless in a good way, just like absolutely unself-conscious physical expression of freedom, right?
Right.
And that these horses are soon to be crushed by driverless cars unless you fucking get your shit together, Logan, and
Yeah.
help them. Like that's a statement. Doesn't have to. No one has to say it. It's
Right.
just is what it is. You know, the symbols are right there, and it works perfectly. And it makes for a scary scene because you don't want to see horses get hurt.
Yep. So they end up helping them. They say, "Oh, we'll invite you over for dinner. We're not far down the road." And they're like, "No, we got to moving." So he's like, "We'd love to come."
Yeah, and now begins Evil Shane.
Evil Shane. Right?
The Dark Knight of the Shane.
Shane. And also, they should note that the whole family is black, which is also
Yes. Yep.
They don't have to be black, but
Well, I think it's a beautiful, like, this is like it really it widens the vision of the film and really shows a cross section of America. Like, here's a family that has, you know, clearly worked extremely hard to get to the like lowest rung of middle class. Like, they are like farming, and they have a good house and holding it together, but it is hard. Like, it is not an easy life that they're in.
Middle class is not easy, especially middle class in middle America is not easy.
Yeah, like they've just barely come up out of it, and you're rooting for them the moment you see them. You're just like please, like, make it possible for these folks. You know, you're just this feels like everything. If this doesn't work out, then everything's in danger. Spoiler alert: this does not work out.
No. So, but it does start just like Shane. They're invited in the house. Mm-hmm. Reluctantly, they go, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a very wonderful, easygoing family experience, right?
Yeah, Eric LaSalle from ER, great actor. I love that guy. Right. Like, in his family, his awesome wife, great kid.
There's a young boy, mother, and everything is fine, and they're having a grand old meal, and Xavier
it's the first moment of just like real happiness, not extraordinary. It's just sort of like they can relax and they're actually being with people, and it feels really good.
And Xavier tells him, "You see, this is what it could be like for you."
Yes.
He tells him, "It's like
this is what it could be like." Yeah.
Right.
And this is what it would be. This is what it could be like is a very important line.
Right.
This is what it could be like. Right. This is what we're fighting for. Is this right?
Right. But unfortunately, the water pump breaks because there's a situation, and they got to.
Big corporations have tried to fuck with his land ownership, right?
Because he owns the land and they want to take his land back.
Like, they tried to take their eminent domain. They tried to block all this stuff, and now
just like in
the water pump breaks all the time. You know, all this stuff. And so now he has to go back and reset it. Like, it's basically fucking with him just the way that the fucking with him the same way that the Starets are being fucked with by the cowboys in Shane. Like, only that, and now it's giant companies, and they're just like, we will slowly drive these people off these lands. That's it. Yeah, because they're no longer necessary. We have driverless trucks to take care of all this bullshit, and giant
combines that make corn, and we just need. You're just taking up too much land.
Get back in the hole is what is the
right. It's just like it's essentially just like Shane, except Shane is kind of different, like because he is it's a little bit different. But basically, the guys show up as they're trying to fix the water pump, just like in Shane. It's
just like in Shane, right?
Yeah, and they're like, and then of course Wolverine is there. Who's this guy? I'm a friend.
And it's exactly the same thing. It's just like, I'm his friend. You're like, whoa, I guess they're friends now.
Right.
And this is the greatness, is because this is why we say it's evil Shane, is because Wolverine is in the Shane position, right?
Yes.
And Wolverine is like, he comes from a very violent world, right? And they're in the middle of a phase change, but like I said, it's phasing into something yet worse. And so Wolverine is not looking, Logan is not looking at this as like, I'm my kind is fading out and I have to hand it over to these people. He's like, these people are fucking dead. Like I'm dead and they're dead and everything's going to get much worse.
Yeah.
Like, so it's Shane on the downslide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's lovely to have this family and it's lovely to have this experience, but this is not supportable.
Right. So where are we?
So then Professor X is like before he went out to go get the corn, right? Go deal with the water pipe. He brings Professor X up to bed, and they have a nice last little scene where he's like, essentially going to sleep. Says the line that you said, right?
No, actually, that's not exactly where he says it. It's a little bit different, right?
Oh, yeah?
He does say, you're right. It's like, this is what it could be like, etc. Right?
I just had this is the best time I've had in a long time. This is what it's supposed
no,
to be
he doesn't say that. He doesn't say.
Oh, yeah, that he says in the second half. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, we cut back to the house.
Cut back to the house. Find out that we know that the what's his name, Richard Grant has been following them. They've been tracking him. Right. And someone comes up to the bed, and he says, "Logan."
Right. And now this is a nice little Silence of the Lambs style trickery because like what you read this as is like, oh, it's a time jump. Like they fixed the water pipe thing. Now we're coming back here, and Logan's showing up in his room. Like you think about 25 minutes has passed. In fact, it's simultaneous. Logan is not showing up. Someone who looks like Logan is showing up.
Right. Which we found out is that instead of actually making children with genes, with mutant genes, they're literally just cloning them and making them specifically as weapons. So they take the worst of Logan and all of his rage and just put it into one character, and it's like you're just a full-on angry Wolverine.
Yeah, you can't even talk. Like this there's so many levels to this because like it is the content. It's like that character is how Logan thinks of his own past. That is Logan's past.
Right.
Like Logan's like, this is the monster I was and what I'm trying to outrun. And now it has been absolutely physicalized through superhero mechanisms, right?
Right.
And even more beautiful, it's like it's the other mute character in the movie. There's two mute characters.
Right.
And so she has this same muteness, like, and so muteness becomes a symbol in the film for being unable to process your own emotional trauma. Like you can't speak this stuff aloud, right? And so the evil Wolverine character like can't talk. All he is the embodiment of hatred and rage and anger, right? And vengeance, right? She can't talk, right? Because of the same thing, right? And Logan himself is about as mute on anything meaningful as you could possibly be. And he doesn't want to express himself to anybody. He's constantly telling Xavier to shut up. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So the idea that any of these characters might talk is huge. And they hold on to that one for a good long time. And they really emphasize it with this guy. Like as soon as this dude shows up, he's like, Logan, and Xavier's like, Logan, I just want to say that I'm an adorable old man and I forgive you for everything. And don't worry, we'll be friends in heaven and we'll go to X-Men parties and everything will be lovely.
This was the best night of my life.
Best night of my life.
So I can die a happy man in the next 5 seconds.
And the dude that looks like Wolverine shoves his Wolverine claws through his neck.
Right through his chest immediately.
It's amazing. Like it's such an awesome gag. And it's like exactly the low point you want to have happen to like savor the maximum suffering.
And it gets repeated, by the way, and I'm going to get to that point in a second. But they do it again. So it's a foreshadowing, shall we say.
So like the evil Wolverine shows up and you have just spent a good 20 minutes getting to know this family and Eric LaSalle and like spending time with the young boy, and he befriends
the young boy who's very sweet with the girl and shares music with her.
Shares music with her, and Wolverine, evil Wolverine, fucking cuts them to ribbons.
Kills all of them.
Kills the entire family. When I first
Not
time
like
I
in
saw this,
Shane.
I was like, what?
That's what Brady was like. I didn't need to kill the whole family. I was like, yeah.
Oh my God, the fucking balls on this movie, man. The first time I saw this, I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I was almost giddy that they chose to do this.
Yeah.
Like, no studio movie. Like, it's so rare for a studio to roll the dice like that. But they understood what they were saying, and they were like, if we're gonna go for it, we gotta go all the way as hard as we can.
The boy dies right away.
Yep. Oh man, it is
And
fucking
the mother
bad.
So you know what it reminded me of?
Mm-hmm.
The one of the first scenes in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, when he goes to the guy's house to get the money, and he kills the whole family.
Kills the whole family. Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. And also in Once Upon a Time in the West, murders the family. But it's just like
$200, some in gold. A tidy sum. I've seen that movie way too many times.
A tidy sum. A tidy sum.
A tidy sum.
But yeah, it's
and
like
he's eating with a card sum.
Once I've been paid, I follow through. Yeah.
I always see a job through.
I always see a job through. No, pillow bang. But yeah, it's like, this is such a, like, I was loving this movie to the nth degree already. But I gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, don't blow it, and don't get corny on me. Like, I was getting worried that the movie was so good. And then the movie does this, and I was like, I needn't have worried.
Yeah. Right. So
like, it's in good hands.
Yes.
So it's like where you're watching Shane. Imagine if like Shane came back and Jack Palance had fucking shot everybody to death.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Including the boy.
Including the boy. Yeah. Horribly. And then Joe is like barely alive. He's like, I've seen this whole family get killed, and then Joe's like trying to kill him. Like, that's exactly what happens here. It's absolutely fucking glorious.
Right. And then also all of the the guys who own the big farm come over to, like, because they're pissed off and they want to go get Logan, but then they think they have Logan, but no, it's the evil Wolverine who just chops their head off so
Arm
fast.
off, head off.
It's like he's starting to give him a lecture. I tell you, head off. And everyone's like,
dude's head just comes apart in 8 pieces. Like, you're like, wait.
Yeah, everyone's like, what the? Yeah,
it's
crazy
so
dad.
good.
Stephen Merchant is still stuck in the truck. Blows himself up, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Trying to kill Boyd Holbrook.
Yeah.
Boyd Holbrook still lives, and
Still lives.
The bad guys continue to get away. But yeah, it's about as dark a turn as a movie could possibly make. Wolverine gets into a fight with evil Wolverine, and it is like, he is clearly not going to win this fight. Like,
no,
he is way
because he doesn't
outmatched.
heal us the way the other one does. Right.
And so he's like, because he's got something very wrong with his body. He's not healing like he used to could. And this dude is like, chop, 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 chop. And you're like, holy fuck, he's going to die. And then evil Wolverine is knocked sideways by a truck. And Eric LaSalle, the dad who was shot, or rather who was stabbed, steps out of the truck, and you're like, hooray, the dad saved the day. And he's like, I'm also going to kill you. I was trying to kill you, but it turns out there's 2 Wolverines, and I'm going to kill both of them.
Yeah.
like he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do this. Right.
Well, he feels that he's responsible for having killed his whole family. He brought all of this violence to his family, right?
Exactly.
So, yes, he's right to want to kill Wolverine.
So it saves Wolverine in the moment, right? And but saves Logan in the moment. Logan gets away. But Professor X dies in his arms.
Right.
Imagining as he's on the stolen truck, and he imagines, like, are we on the sun
yacht,
something,
the sunset or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it is. And you're just like, yeah, sure. And then he dies.
He dies. Then they go out to bury him in the middle of nowhere.
And then him and the girl go out to bury him.
He flips out.
This is such a great bit. This relates to my mute comment. Is like, he keeps on trying to give a speech, like a little funeral speech, right?
Right.
And he has something in mind he wants to say, right? And the only thing he's able to get out is, it's not the water, right? Because he wants to talk about like, you can hear that he wants to say is like, listen, I know you didn't die in the boat the way we wanted, but at least this is in a beautiful place. It's like, that's where he's headed. But
Sure.
he just keeps on saying, it's not the water, gets choked up. It's not the water, gets choked up. It's not, gives up.
Right.
Like he's just like, I can't even talk. I'm in so much pain. Yeah, I can't even talk. I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely, it's so sad. It's so sad. And like he has no voice to state his pain anymore. And that's when she says her first line, after he passes out from freaking out, right?
Yeah. So he flips out. We should say this. He flips out.
Yeah.
He beats up
his own truck because
beats up his own truck with a shovel that he just used to bury his dad. Right. And then passes out on the ground in pain.
Right.
And then
like, clearly something is like, he's on the way out. Like
he's not doing well.
His body is almost given up. At this point.
He's still wounded as hell. Right.
Yeah. Right.
He wakes up in a small town doctor's office, Doc Hollywood style. Right.
Right. Exactly.
And he wakes up, and the doctors was just like, I know about you guys.
Yeah, I can't believe I got to actually meet one of you people.
One of you, and he's like, you're not doing well. You really got to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Your healing isn't going to cover it. Like there's something deeply wrong with you, and you're dying.
There's some poison inside of you, which we find out is that's what's actually is in him. Right.
Right.
And so they get out of the town. It's like a frontier town. Very much so, right?
Right.
And they get into this old Range Rover.
Because she's stolen a car from someone at the lake, right? And so that's how she got him there. She can drive, and she stole the car. And then they have this awesome argument in that car, right?
Well, that's when she first talks.
That's when she first talks. So
and
like,
what? You can talk?
Yeah. And she just starts reciting the names of the kids that were in her group, right?
Right.
And he is just like, I'm not going to fucking take you there. This is nonsense, blah, blah, blah. And
it's in a comic book. It's in a comic book. She says, yes, it's in a comic book.
It's in the comic book. Let's go, right?
That's where everyone is. Well, the thing is, when I was thinking about it, it's like, who cares if it's in a comic book? That's where everyone's going.
That's where everyone's going anyway. Exactly. Like, which is essentially Xavier's point. Just like, it's true for her and for everyone that thinks this. They're all going to go there.
They're all going to go there.
It doesn't matter if the fucking
it's like Burning Man. Just go there.
Just go. Right. And so like he is desperate to give up, but now she talks, and this is just structurally perfect screenwriting because it's Xavier dies. Logan's at the lowest moment. He can't speak. And so his father figure dies, and he becomes the father figure, and she speaks. Like that is a flawless handoff. Like you can't, like, that's how you want all movies to work. You know, it's like he can't, like, now that she's talking, he can't not be her parent. Like, he can't pretend like she's just baggage, you know?
No. And what happens is that he's exhausted and is passing out while driving.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gets him to pull over and go to sleep, and she takes over, just like he took over for Xavier.
Yes.
So she starts driving to wherever they're going.
Right. And he wakes up, and she is like up in the rocks going, this way, this way, this way.
Right.
And they're at the location, which instead of being a fucking big fancy X-Men style, you know, rounded concrete modernist future thing, like it's just a shitty wood shack. It's a fire shack.
Right.
Like that's it. But there are people there. There are kids there.
The kids there, and they're getting they're in radio communication with Canada, where they're going to get what's not salvation, what's
not immunity, but yeah,
yes.
Like they like once they're across the border, then they can't be pursued, right? So Boyd Holbrook is now on the case. Like he's got to stop the kids.
He's got to get them before they get to Canada. Right. Asylum.
Asylum. Thank you. Yeah. And so like the kids are all quickly but well introduced. They are all mutants. They're all essentially the new mutants, and like they all have powers. And Like they care for Logan enough to get him, let him sleep, get him back on his feet, and
One thing they do that I'm like, ugh, it's a little bit of the let's get Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon, is they give him a haircut so they can get him his old Wolverine.
Yeah, they
beard
play it as a
back.
joke. If that's like, if you're gonna do fan service, this is the extent of what I can handle, because like they play it within the context of the movie. The kids are fucking around cutting his beard, and they cut his beard, and they're not like, they're just like, oh, let's make him look like the old comics. Isn't that funny? The comics exist in the real world.
Sure.
The kids would do this. They think it's funny, and that's it. Like, it's all within it all works.
I understand.
Within the context. That, if you're going to do the fucking fan service, do it that way. If you can't resist, do it that way. Don't just fucking, sorry, Alien Romulus fans, have a character that has nothing to do with Sigourney Weaver say, "Get away from her, you bitch," because it was in another movie and we all applaud. Don't do that, because it's stupid. There's no reason for him to say it, and it's utterly meaningless to him. Why is he saying it?
Right.
Like, this at least is a part of its own fiction, and also a nod to the outside. That's fine.
Yep. So essentially what happens is they're going to get to Canada. The kids are all together. They're getting ready to go. They know where they have to go. The bad guys are coming. Bad guys come. They're trying to get away. They get captured. Turns into a big old fight, right? Also find out from Logan that he's got a special bullet, which has got the metal thing in the bullet, right? It's the only thing.
This actually gets introduced way in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And
it's the bullet he's going to kill himself with.
Right. Which is a big admission in this point when he's talking with her and is being very honest. Like, everyone else,
it's the only thing that can penetrate his skull, right? Is basically what it is.
And he just says it to her. It's a really great scene where he's just like, and what's this? And he's like, well, actually, I mean, and he stood dithers for a second and goes, yeah, I was going to shoot myself with that. Yeah. Like, just says it.
Yeah, because he can't die normally, right? So it's the only thing that can go through his brain.
Right.
So that's what he's going to do. And then he's attacked by, he kills it gets pretty bad. Bad Wolverine comes after him, right? Mm-hmm. Big fight. She shoots Bad Wolverine with the bullet that he would have shot himself, but at the same time,
it's like all the kids are trying to get away to Canada. They're all running like crazy. Boyd Holbrook and his team are going after them. Bad Wolverine gets released, and Logan, injects himself with the last of the fluid that makes, that pumps you up, right? Mm-hmm. And that lasts for about 8 minutes, so he can kill a bunch of the other guys, but it's not long enough to fight evil Wolverine.
Right.
And so by the time he gets to that, like, he's out of gas. Like, this is. But
he also kills Richard Grant pretty satisfying way too.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, because Richard Grant is in the middle of his villain explanation,
and he just kills him.
Well, of course, just because we are blah blah blah, just dead. Enough, dead. Shut up. And then and Boyd Holbrook gets killed by the kids, because the kids are not like Hollywood little kids that do nice things. They're like, they strangle him with grass and freeze his neck and break it. Yes. So this is also satisfying.
Right.
But it comes down to the Wolverine versus Logan fight, and it gets fucking ravaged. Like, bad. And finally, evil Wolverine hauls him up and throws him down on the broken arm of a tree stump, and drives right through his liver and pins him to the wood. And is about to fucking take his head off when Bad Wolverine's head explodes with an adamantium bullet fired by little girl.
Exactly. And so then she goes up to him. He's dying. And then he has this slight look of joy in his face because she calls him daddy.
Mm-hmm. Crying. Cut to Dan crying.
Don't die, dad. She's crying. And then he looks at her and goes, this is what it's like to have a family. He has a smile on his face, and then dies. Right? And she's sobbing.
That is That and Dan is laughing and wiping tears out of his eyes.
Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about how I feel about this, because I think that was done the right way. And I was very, very, have you ever seen the squid in the whale?
Yeah, Squid in the Whale. Yeah.
No, not the squid in the whale, the whale.
Oh, the whale? No, I have not seen the whale.
Okay. So you kind of know the premise of the whale.
Yeah.
Right.
I also know
he's
the ending.
Eating
of the whale,
himself to death, right?
Yep. Right.
He's eating himself to death because he's depressed and everything else. And then he's has an estranged daughter who hates him, who's trying to do that and that. And then he trying to show that he loves her, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And then he's completely depressed. He is dying. She's knowing he's dying. She's telling him, "Daddy, don't die." Mm-hmm. And then when she finally does the thing that he wants her to do that makes her so proud, he has this joyous thing and dies, right? So he selfishly dies.
Right.
Like he dies putting her through hell to have her acknowledge that he is her father. And then he's like, she loves me. Boom, now I can die, right? And that's horrible, because now that she loves him, that's when he dies. It's the worst.
Yeah, that's a villain plot.
Right? And so to me, there was a little bit of that there when it's like, oh, fuck, he can die now because he's happy. But now she has to live with the fact that I
hear what you're saying. I think that it's the first time that he has hope for her lasting beyond him. Like,
sure,
it's like, this is like, I can die because she is safe. I have achieved, this is all I needed to achieve is this. And that is
I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't think it's that. I think what it is it's exactly, it's a mirror image of Xavier saying, it's like, this is the best night of my life, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
He said that because it's about family and having and just a normalcy of everything else. When she calls him daddy, that's when he's like, he's a dad all of a sudden, right? Suddenly he's a family. He is the first time he really feels like he's a family. Right. It has nothing to do with her life going forward. It's just that he was called dad. And then suddenly there's a sense of love that he feels that he hasn't felt ever.
Yeah, because like there's like all of that other stuff like all of everything bad is momentarily pushed away. That they honestly care for each other, and in that she will be okay. Like, he's gotten her to this point. They have made this connection. He feels like, in that I am dying, I am okay to die. Like, instead of angrily fighting it or fearing it or anything else, like, we arrived here together, and that's what I like. That's as far as I can go, and I'm at least connected to her in that moment before she can move on. Right? I have to close up my story. She begins her story, but at least we actually overlap instead of fight for just a second. And that's what the family bit is. Because like what it really is like, you know, it's the Moses story. It's like, you can't continue on into the promised land, Wolverine. Like, that's not how it works. Like, the next generation takes up and does what you do. But hopefully, if you have been a good father and you have a good family, then you get to share that one little moment together where you overlap. Right. And I think that that's the joy. He's not like, finally, one for me, like, like, which I definitely hear about from, like, that's what the whale seems like to me for sure. But like, he's like, I can now relax and lower my defenses enough to accept this person's love for me. And I'm thankful that I'm able to do that and share that with her as she's on the way up and I'm on the way out.
I think what I'm trying to say is like, it's a very similar thing where he suddenly feels there was a reminiscence of the whale when I saw this scene again, right? Because I had saw it the first time and then I hadn't seen it since I'd seen the whale. So, but when I see this, I'm like, oh, this is the same scene from the whale. And then I realized like, but this is so much better. Like, it made me understand why I hated that.
Yeah, what's wrong with the whale? Exactly, sure.
Right. So it made me like, oh, you're fucking selfish. Yeah. And that's,
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
maybe that's the
You're
message.
exactly right.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
the message, right? Maybe, and that's maybe a thing that I should take away from the whale. I was like, oh, he is a selfish little bastard, right?
Self-prick. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's the, a lot of people who are super depressed and going and self-destructive, they're highly narcissistic because they're constantly
Absolutely. 100%.
thinking about themselves.
Yeah, they think the whole world is thinking about them in negative terms.
Sure.
That's a form of narcissism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's a great line from what's his name? David Foster Wallace says like you would think a lot what was it? You'd worry a lot less about what people think of you if you realized how little they did.
Right.
And so like that, I think you're right, because that is the real difference, is that Logan has actually been extremely selfish. He's been trying to let go of selfishness this whole time. Like he's afraid of connecting with anybody.
He is avoidant.
He is avoidant, right?
So he's avoidant. He's like, no, I don't want to. Nope.
I don't want to deal. I don't
want to deal with
this.
I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with Xavier. I just have to deal with it because that's the only thing I have.
Yeah.
And in fact, all I really want to do is I want to take that bullet and put it through my head.
Yeah, exactly.
Or drink myself silly.
And again, like a perfect bit of symbolism is that the bullet does go through that head.
Right.
Like it kills the thing that was wrong with him.
Right.
Like
it kills the violence.
What he is set free of Whoa, it gets me every time. Yikes, that came on fast. So yeah, she destroys that terribleness in him. And he can finally be for a moment himself. And it's like it's just symbolically and structurally perfect and perfectly played. It makes me so emotional. It's a great small ending to a like big action adventure-y, wonderful, exciting story, but they know where their heart is by landing it so small.
Right.
And I'm just like, fuck, that is great. That is absolutely terrific.
Yep.
No, real fucking. I'm probably never seeing The Whale. I'm not a giant Aronofsky fan.
I would say you should see it once, and that's all it takes. You don't need to see it again.
Yeah,
it's not a.
I love Fraser. Fraser's great. He's a great actor.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, he's
so good. And you know who else is in it? Is the that Asian woman who's so good. Oh, she played the maid in the where people become small. What's the?
Oh yeah, she was great. Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about because we talked about it on the show.
Yes,
and Downsizing. Yeah,
Downsizing.
Yeah, great.
So she's that woman.
Oh, okay.
She's very good.
I'll watch it for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a play. It's really a play,
sure.
But he's very good. Fraser's.
Yeah, he's
Fraser.
Knockout. He's a terrific actor, and and I don't hate Aronofsky movies. It's just that
what's your favorite Brendan Fraser?
My favorite Brendan Fraser really of all time is the episode of Scrubs that he's in.
Oh, okay.
Which is a fucking surefire crier for me anytime I see it. Like
for
perfect.
Absolutely. I forgot about that. I'm gonna put that at number 2 though. Number 1 still is just the pure charm is Blast from the Past.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that film is not a heady film, but he is so charming,
fun.
so charming in that film that you cannot help but just absolutely fall in love with him.
Yeah.
And what's really I love about that is when you see Alicia Silverstone, like her, just like what a douchebag. I kind of love him.
It's the best. It's the best. Oh god.
Yeah.
What a movie, man. Christopher Walken pacing out the yard.
And then what's his name? The guy from Kids in the Hall.
Dave Foley, right?
Dave Foley.
Dave Foley. What is the movie that we watched that I loved with Dave Foley? The one that nobody has seen.
Oh, no one's seen it. No, it's the wrong guy.
The wrong guy. Oh God, I love Foley. I love that guy.
That movie is done. The Wrong Guy probably has, $13,000 probably made.
Oh my God,
so dude. Cheap.
That will be discovered in the future, like 5,000 years from now, and it's going to be worshipped as a work of art.
Yeah. So funny, and it's such a simple, hilarious comedy.
Yeah, it's just dumb as hell, but he's so goddamn funny in it. Dave Foley.
There's
And
another really
great.
funny Dave Foley film. I don't know. I don't remember it. I don't know if you've seen it or we've discussed it before, but it's another Canadian film that's done for like, $1,200.
Yep.
It's about him and vampire hunters in Canada. Have you seen this film?
I don't think so.
It's
God.
very funny.
It
It's
sounds
basically Dave Foley plays a rock band agent, and all the rock band decide that they're going to become famous by becoming vampires, and they voluntarily become vampires. Very funny. There's a lot of rock stars. Iggy Pop is in it. Moby is in it.
Oh my God. Good
Lord. Moby plays a band leader called Meat something, because Moby's a very famous vegan, right?
Right. Right.
Like in his band, they play super hardcore heavy metal and they throw meat at each other.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I gotta find out what the name of this movie is. Let me just look up Dave Foley vampire movie. Maybe that'll.
Yep. As you look that up, I want to comment to Jason. Yeah, I'm in the chat. Yeah, I'm with you there, Jason. I understand that feeling very much myself. It's because I had a similar experience with my father and the Alzheimer's routine. No fun whatsoever.
Nope.
It's a very sad,
my grandmother
sad
as well.
experience. Yeah.
Okay, so on a lighter note, the movie's called Vampires Suck.
Oh my God, I cannot believe I haven't seen this. This is embarrassing.
It's from 2010.
I'm definitely watching this. This is great. My God, I didn't know Foley was in this.
Yeah, and it's got some really hilarious, really funny people in it.
Okay, that sounds good.
No,
I wrote a screenplay called "Suck" that was a comedy about vampires, like 20 years ago now.
Yeah, it is Dave Foley. No,
I'm checking it out regardless. Even if it's a fake Foley, I'll do it. Have you seen what's the great?
No, that's not the movie. Hold on a second.
What is the hilarious vampire show? From Jermaine Clement.
No, it's not Vampire Suck. It's just Suck.
Oh, it's just called Suck? That's the screenplay I wrote is called Suck. That's bizarre.
Okay, it's from 2000. Okay, so
Vampire
Vampire Suck is another parody film.
Suck.
It's just called Suck. Okay, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. Suck, 2009 rock and roll vampire black comedy horror films written and directed by Robert Stefanik. Stars Canadian actress Jessica Perret,
Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop, Henry Rollins, and Dave Foley. Look at that.
Yes, Alice Cooper's in it too.
I'm definitely watching this. Moby. Yeah. Oh my God, it's fucking wild, dude. Definitely watching this thing.
Moby plays Beef Bellows.
That's fucking crazy. That's awesome.
It's super, I don't know if you can see this movie anywhere. I think I saw it on an airplane. See, that's the thing about airplanes. You get on the planes and you can find weird shit that you've never seen before. I've seen this on an airplane. The other one I saw was Disco Safari, which is hilarious.
Oh, you told me about Disco Safari. That's right. I forgot about that.
That one's really funny. And that's the thing is you find these random things that are like, oh, you know what's also funny about Disco Safari is I was talking to this guy, visual effects guy out of Australia. And he was saying, oh yeah, I did this. And it's I worked in some films because I was actually an assistant director on a film called Disco Safari. And I said, oh my God, I love that movie. And he's like, you're one of the only people I know who've seen it.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
It's it's hilarious.
That's great. Disco Safari.
So yeah, but anyway, where was I? So yes, so he dies. Where are we now?
It's the very, very end. The very end.
So he's died. They bury him. Which point she gives the speech from Shane, which she remembered from watching the movie in Vegas.
No Guns in the Valley. Yep.
No Guns in the Valley. And you can't escape the brand, which is about him. You can't escape the fucking brand of X-Men and Marvel.
Yep, you can't escape the brand.
Right?
It's right.
That's exactly the only way you gotta leave town for us to be the thing, right? And it ends, and and it's beautiful, and that's the end of the movie.
Dynamite.
At which point you think this should be the end of all of the whole series. It's a great way, but no, they keep.
I mean, like,
trying to
because
make
she
another
takes the wooden cross out and puts it back down as an X.
X
Like
for
this
X-Men.
is and this is the grave of we've reached the end. That's it. Superheroes.
Isn't this great? Isn't this a wonderful way to end this?
Yes.
But no, they decide they're going to make they don't lead you on to believe that there's going to be a sequel. It ends like a proper film.
There is no sequel to Logan. That is impossible.
They tried to make one. I think they made one about the superhero kids, didn't they?
Oh, the New Mutants existed as a comic book outside of that. And I don't think it has any of the same cast.
So. I think they did. Well, yeah, but they basically whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Logan stands alone. That's that. Great picture. Don't worry about it. Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously, it is what it is. No, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But you did not like that movie?
No, I did not. And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong that I should have liked it, but it doesn't feel
Nobody's
right
wrong about opinions. You didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's how it is. It's okay.
I mean, and it could be that I'm just reacting to the BS of what we have right now.
Yeah, it's like them. Like I'm all for new superhero movies if you can make them like Logan. That I'm definitely, if I see one more,
it just
Black
goes
Widow,
to show
I'm
it's
out.
not about the genre, right? We just discussed it because it's not about the genre; it's about the story that you're trying to tell, right? And that is kind of awesome. And that is, you just take the superhero thing and you wrap it in this thing, and it's about paying homage to Shane and realizing that it's not about the Western. It's about what's being told in the Western. Yeah. Right. It's not about the superheroes. It's being what's told in there. And it's about all the other things they're doing. So
everything else is just the wrapper for the meaning.
Right.
And once the wrapper becomes the meaning, you don't have a fucking movie anymore. And that's what most of that garbage is. So it's like, no, we referenced the other movie. That's why this is now emotional.
Right.
Like, what do I care?
Yeah.
Like, I should just watch the movie and feel feelings, not pretend to feel feelings.
No, yeah. You should be able to do that on your own. You don't need the crutch of another movie to make you emotional about things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like I had no feelings for when Iron Man dies in Endgame. None.
Yeah.
No sadness.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was just like, yeah, they're all gonna fucking none of
whatever. They'll just bring him back in some
fucking
metaverse bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't worry, more plates spinning your way.
Yeah. Yeah, but in this one, they're like, no. He felt like it was the proper death.
Yeah, that's that.
Xavier
Big
died
statement.
the right way.
Go the fuck home.
Yeah.
That's what you
Dave
need to do.
3D put in our chat on YouTube. He's like, one of the saddest moments is when Logan finds Charles in bed stabbed, and he says, it wasn't me, because he knows that Charles might have assumed otherwise.
Yes, 100%. God, it's a fuck. This movie is like, when it's not action-packed and exciting, it is heartbreaking. Like, they're taking the fucking hammer out and slamming on your chest. Like, it's just absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
They do not let
Why
up.
do you
It's
think
great.
we like sad films?
It's cathartic. It's great. I mean, because ultimately it makes you feel great. It makes you feel really good, you know? And like I have this, like I watched the movie, this is a strange one, but the movie I cried hardest at for the longest amount after the movie was over recently is Inside Llewyn Davis, like, which was terrifying and sad to me. Like it was such an open wound of a movie to me in terms of like being an artist and, you know, struggling to get things done and all this kind of stuff. And what I realized in the end of it, I was just like, this movie, like the greatness of having a sad ending like this, that seems to cement the depressing statement that Llewyn is living his life by, is that it could only have been made by people who have felt that way. And the Coen brothers are successful filmmakers. So obviously you do get by it. Like, the fact that you told the story means you got by the sadness. Like, it's automatically hopeful in that you told the story. You know, and I think that that's the sort of secret thing about sad movies is like as sad as it is, it's actually a joyful moment of empathy with somebody else who has gone through something similar that is making you sad. It's really a beautiful, like, it's a beautiful way to think about it, and it can make you slightly happy about sad movies.
I think it's also that thing, right? Like, we're hoping for that moment. We're hoping for that moment of realization.
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the like watching Logan
People
again.
don't like sad movies anymore, though.
They're afraid of sad movies. Yeah.
It's weird, right? They're afraid of sad movies. They're afraid of comedies.
Mhm.
Now people are afraid of comedies. So the only thing left is action and horror,
Right.
and romance.
Right. Yeah. And not too much sex in that romance.
Yeah.
So like anything where you're really feeling something, that's being pushed under the rug. Like I couldn't believe they like. I haven't seen Twisters. I'm going to see Twisters because I love the original Twister. It's one of the goofiest fucking silly movies I've ever seen.
Oh, but it's got what's his name in it? He's coming. He's
The
becoming
handsome
a
guy.
thing.
Yeah,
Handsome man.
I like Handsome Man. He's okay.
He's a Tom Cruise protege, isn't he?
Yes, he went to the Tom Cruise school.
Is he a Scientologist too?
I don't know about that.
I'm almost. I put my money down that he's a Scientologist.
You think he's got the vibes? He may have the vibes.
Anyone who gets friends with, like, I've heard from multiple sources that when Tom Cruise gets friendly with you, which apparently he's very willing to become very friendly with you,
it's wonderful.
He wants you. Eventually, you're going to want to go down.
Consider some
Scientology
documentation.
And if you say, you know what, that's cool, but I'm not really interested in that, he's like, okay, and then he'll never talk to you again,
then that's
right?
The end of it.
Because that's the end of that conversation, right? He's a salesman, right? So
sure.
I have a feeling that, like, if you want to continue down the road of Tom Cruise coattails, you might want to consider Scientology.
You never know. Well, I'm just to preempt that, Tom.
Maybe not. I still love Tom Cruise.
I love Tom. Tom makes great movies, and he seems like a real pro.
Oh, and he's a movie nerd, which I love.
Super movie nerd. Yeah, exactly. All the stories I hear about, like him on set, 100% great.
Yeah.
Knows a lot about movies, loves filmmaking. I endorse that guy 100%.
100%.
Just in case I ever meet him, Tom, I'm not going to become a Scientologist.
There's no
fucking way. Not ever.
Same
so
thing.
Let's not start that road.
And he did not try to ask me about base set. He was asking me a lot of questions about how do we calculate reflections on faces? Because
that's cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was totally loving. He's like, this is such cool technology.
Yeah, that's fucking great.
Such cool. Yeah.
With realistically, I actually respect that guy a lot. I think he's a terrific movie maker and a terrific entertainer.
He loves making movies.
Yeah,
and that's his job. The one thing I will say also is, like, when a lot of people had a hard time, that audio leak of him yelling at the people during COVID for not wearing masks.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, Tom Cruise, listen. It's like, I am so with Tom Cruise. I was
totally on his fucking side. I was like,
totally.
Look at this. That is correct.
Yeah.
He knows where, he knows how to act properly. He knows what this means. And I was 100% behind him. Like, he is right to be mad.
There was another one. Was it Christian Bale who had a flip out?
He did on set, because and this is like
the AD was
really,
the assistant cameraman was doing something bullshit.
Yeah, someone was acting a little unprofessional around him, and it's obviously a really long day. And he just lost his temper. And
I'm with him on that one too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you don't want to get that mad at some random crew member, but it's not unreasonable that he's pissed. Like, the guy's trying to fucking block his scene, and this guy, some other dude, is just dicking around and treating him with no respect. Like,
right.
Don't do that. It's got to work. This is serious business. I know there's lots of things to get done, but everyone has to respect the other professional space. And so everyone rode bail for that. I was like, I don't know, man. It's embarrassing to lose your temper, but I don't think he's wrong. I don't think we should say that's bad. That's a little bit much.
Yep.
Yeah. But in any case,
we should see. We really. I'm looking at the cast of Suck. Man, I forgot Malcolm McDowell is Eddie Van Helsing.
God bless him. God bless that dude. I'm gonna see the re-edit of Caligula at some point. That's got to be.
Oh God, yeah. My mom's best friend. Someone who's in her 80s. Like, oh look, you love movies. They're re-releasing Caligula. It's like, really? You're gonna.
There's some stuff in that. Some things happen in that movie that are kind of hard to get out of your head once you see them.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. Like, I really want to see the movie Suck now, but it's not a good movie. It's just like, I can't believe this movie got made. It's funny.
No, I think that's fucking great. I want to see it. Like, when I first moved to LA, I wrote a screenplay called Suck. This is like 2005.
Okay.
And it's a comedy about vampires, especially swingers with vampires. And I never did anything with it. I'm glad that somebody took the title and did something with it, because I was like, that title rules. How come I can't get this made? Somebody did. Unconnected, but an obvious joke to pick that nobody had done.
It's worth a giggle for sure.
That's awesome. And it's got Dave Foley. I'm already on board.
Dave Foley, yeah, I think he plays their agent.
Love it. Love it.
I don't know, but it's got like seriously like Iggy Pop, Henry Rollins, Moby, Alice Cooper.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Oh, Alice Cooper shows up in movies. So Alice Cooper and Tom Waits. Those are my two favorite musicians to show up in films.
Yes. Didn't Tom Waits show up in Mystery Men? Isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's in Mystery Men. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think that's true. He's in Dracula, Coppola's Dracula. He's really fun, and he's great in fucking Buster Scruggs. He has a whole story to himself. Yeah, all Gold Canyon.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. So those are our films. Western, not Western.
Western, not Western. Good picks. Loved him.
Shane is a great one. I'm really sorry Eric couldn't join us today. Unfortunately, he had something that came up at the last minute. And he said he might join us late, but unfortunately not do that.
No worries.
But we are, it was a great, I haven't seen Shane, man, in so long.
It's a good
All
one.
I could think of when I was like, Shane.
Yeah.
Shane,
come back, Shane. Yeah.
Come back, Shane.
And he, by the way, he's fucking dead. You know, that movie did. Like,
you think he died? You think that's what happened?
I think he dies. Yeah, I think he dies. I think he's like, he's tottering along that horse, like just about to fall off. I think that's the last time you see him. That's my read. I don't know. I'm willing to be arguing to the other position.
Yeah. Maybe.
I
mean, that's the way to die, right? You save the whole family.
Fucking
no guns in the valley.
Go out with a bang.
Now's the way to die. Just like in Logan's, like, now I can die.
I mean, like, imagine if Shane had ended like, he's just like, Shane, I mean, you can come back and live with my mom, and it's totally okay with my dad because they both think you're really sexy. And like, and he's just like, I gotta go, little Joe. And the little Joe keeps on talking. And finally, blood's coming out of Shane's mouth, and he just falls off the horse face first in the mud. Well, I guess not. Maybe no, little Joe.
Little Joe's got two daddies.
I really gotta get going, or this is gonna get a little ugly. Yeah, little Joe's ma is okay with the situation.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's where we are, and then we'll keep you guys posted. Remember to check YouTube for Ray Tracing for the Win, and you'll see a bunch of stuff there. I got to tell you, I was telling you about stories and how story is more important, and there was a very early sneak preview of the short that happened in London, and apparently that was the number one thing that people said, is that they're so happy that short was about story and not about technology.
Yep. No, we are very, very proud, and we can't wait to show you. Obviously, by the time you hear this, you will likely have already seen it. We hope you enjoy it.
Yes.
For everyone who's listening live or within the next couple of days, check it out. It's coming out this week.
Technically, the premiere is coming out on Wednesday, which is on September 11th.
Yep.
And then it'll be out on September 12th.
Yeah.
So,
super pumped. Everyone did a brilliant job, and it was awesome working with you guys. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments.
I will. Okay, you do talk, and I will do the last drink.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
All
right. Drink.
Talk.
Drink.